Greetings and salutations, friends, to a ArchCast special today. We had planned a more usual ArchCast for the evening, but, well, events have rather gotten ahead of things, haven't they? Just a wee little bit. As I'm sure most of you are aware by now, the things have gotten lively down in the Middle East again. Quite lively indeed, in fact. And very suddenly lively as well, as nobody was really expecting this to kick off quite as quickly and as violently as it did. Now, as mentioned, we will be turning off ads for today, for the simple reason that it seems reasonable, shall we say. Superchats will be on simply because turning those off, I believe, needs to... you need to go back in the monetization settings, and I'm not going to start fiddling around with that right now, because I have no idea where to begin, honestly, to find them. Little old Dev will be joining us too in about a moment, in all due likelihood. Let's see. Why is Discord acting weird? Wait, now and then. Alright, there we are. V, I don't know if V will show up today. Mostly because this is a little bit of a dangerous subject, shall we say. And V doesn't want to get his channel sargoned, shall we say. As YouTube has, of course, changed the rules here a little bit, where you can indeed be cancelled for things said on other people's channels. So he's going to be playing it a little bit safe, I believe. Dev, meanwhile, he's just busy, you know, putting food inside of his mouth, as Dev always is. Dev is never not busy putting food inside of himself. This means we might also moderate things a little bit more strictly today. I haven't seen anyone going particularly crazy so far, so I doubt it'll be a problem. You lads know to behave, I'm sure. We do also have a Rumble page, incidentally, as well. Let me see here, without getting too much in the way of echoes, hopefully. So there is a Rumble page. This video may disappear. Let's put it like that. There is no guarantee whatsoever that this video will remain up on the channel. So if it does mysteriously go away, then there is somewhere else to find it, as we have the ArchCast on Rumble as well. Just in case, you know, just in case, just in case. All right. So what exactly has been going on here whilst we continue to buy time for the fat Canadian to waffle his way out of the pastry fields? What appears to have happened, bearing in mind that there's going to be a fair bit of good old-fashioned speculation here as well, Hamas appears to have launched a very large-scale surprise attack on Israel this morning, a rather classic dawn attack, in fact, as we can see. There is quite a lot of footage and video beginning to emerge from this, as initially it was judged to be a terrorist attack, so a small-scale terrorist attack. But stuff like this came out from the official Hamas's propaganda channels. As you can see here, these are members of the, what do they call it? The, what did they call it? Gosh, I've forgotten now. But this is a specific brigade within Hamas, as far as I can understand. Al-Aqsa Brigade, I believe. I'm going to be murdering the pronunciations. Showing a group of them, fairly heavily armed and armored. They're all wearing ballistic vests. They're all carrying automatic weaponry. Some of them are carrying squad automatic weaponry as well. And they have cut a hole into the border fence surrounding the Gaza Strip. This was one of several such infiltrations, actually. that we know of so far. This happened at dawn, as mentioned, and the Israelis do not have appeared to have been entirely prepared for this, which is a bit unusual because normally, of course, Israel's pretty damn good at keeping the security up around this area due to the lively nature of it. This also was further reinforced in the fact that we have footage here. We got to be curating the footage rather heavily, mind you, but this one should be fine as we don't actually see any bodies or anything. But we have what appears to be a weapon right here, I don't know, like it looks almost like a mortar round or something, which is hanging from a drone. This is footage released by HAMAS, which is then released on top of a Merkava tank. After impact, then, you can see that the Merkava stops moving, and there are then footage of destroyed Merkavas, or at the very least, abandoned Merkavas thereafter. As you can see there, you've also got a secondary explosion, it seems like, from inside the Merkava. Now, bearing in mind, the Merkava has all of its engine, etc., in the front, so it is possible that this presumably either a mortar round, unlikely, I'll say it wouldn't have the penetrating power, an RPG grenade, possibly, penetrated the top front part of the Merkava and set the engine ablaze. You can see the tank tries to move forward, but then halts to shudders to a halt there. Now, this is something that has got a lot of people very speculative as to where exactly they figured this out, because I see, for example, the one here. Russia is clearly behind this. No ally of Hamas, except Russia, has experience of using bomb-dropping drones against modern battle tanks. Only Russia could train Hamas in this. I don't know about that. This is not particularly sophisticated hardware here. This does not require a particularly high degree of sophistication, shall we say. Oh, and there's Dave, you little fatso. Done eating? No, he's still muted.
I was talking to V. No V today, eh?
V is scared. And to be fair, this is a bit of a dodgy topic, so V is going to stay at a distance.
V doesn't want to talk about... Oh, God. How spicy should I be? I won't be spicy.
Not too spicy, because we don't yet know YouTube's policy on this conflict.
Yeah. They do seem to have a different policy for every single fucking conflict.
They do. That's kind of part of the problem, really. So we were looking at this footage right here. I'll put it in the link channel, but Israel, to keep it separate.
I like that that's what you called it, link channel, but Israel.
It's simple, okay?
Here, give me a second.
So the conspiracy theory right now is that this is Russia helping Hamas, and I mean it's far from impossible. But again, mounting an RPG-7 or whatever weapon this is beneath a drone and then rigging a remote drop. This is not sophisticated hardware. A 17-year-old with a radio control kit could pull this off, so I'm not entirely sold by the whole Russian infiltration just yet, but we'll see. Instantly as well, people in chat going like, Dave's dead? No, the crew are actually probably fine. Again, the Merkava's engine appears to be what has caught fire here, and the Merkava is specifically designed so that an engine fire and an engine hit will not actually endanger the crew. So the crew are probably, I hope, fine. See, I'm a bit of a softie on this. I'm probably going to give ye old fence rider response in that I would kind of wish they would just stop shooting each other, because this doesn't benefit anyone, frankly. Especially as the conflict is carried out in this way. Like, the whole two-state system is an absolute failure, in my opinion, and it cannot be a success. There needs to be a winner in this conflict, or it will simply just grind on ad infinitum. How about you, Dev? What do you think?
It sounds about right. I mean, there's definitely a lot of responsibility you can heap onto the shoulders of the Israelis because of all the settlement stuff. But at the end of the day, it is the Palestinians who end up lobbing the rockets first. You know, it is them who tend to ignore the actual overtures towards peace. So it's like, well, all right. If they're not willing to actually live in a two-state
Service
solution, then
guarantees citizenship.
this is just how it has to be. You got to fight it out.
There's also I'll put
and
another...
also they're probably going to lose in the long term too. So it's a dumb choice on their part.
Oh, God help me, yeah. They should not stand any sort of chance, honestly. I put another link in the channel there, so even as we are talking, the attacks are continuing, as this appears to, again, not be simply a terrorist attack. This appears to be just a full-scale escalade, a full-scale invasion, actually. As we see continued rocket fire coming from Hamas.
Hold on, I'm just organizing something real quick. Just give me a second.
Yep. Do let me know if Dev is quiet. I'm looking at him on my side. He seems to be about the same volume as usual. I see chat mentioning that Dev is quiet, but he looks okay on my end, so I don't know.
Do I sound too quiet, guys? What's going on?
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I was talking with V before this started up, like in the final minutes, and I was like, "Are you coming, V?" And he's like, "Fuck no." Well, yeah, I don't blame him. So, I mean, I've been on and off following the Israel-Palestine thing. I think probably since 2003. Like I was a kid in 2003, but I was old enough to know that like this was some sort of long-standing conflict, right? And I think probably the most interest I took in it was back in 2021. Do you remember the all those bread tubers got together to like raise money for Palestinian terrorists? Remember that controversy?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So that was the last time I really looked at this conflict in detail. Was just here's the paper trail for Lance and Vosh and all these retards who are raising money to go to terrorists. Good job, guys. But I haven't like paid attention to anything since then. And from what I understand, this seems to have basically come out of nowhere.
Yes, and that's kind of why it's a big deal as well, as it appears to have been a very successful surprise attack. So the current claim is 100 people dead, at least. I've seen much higher numbers than that as well. It's a little bit unclear right now, as you have very pro-Palestinian and very pro-Israeli sources. There are also reports of at least 1,000 people injured. So, because this wasn't just, again, a terrorist attack. This wasn't just missiles being fired. These were armed infiltrators entering into Israeli cities and just opening up in the streets against anything that moved.
I have lost shit. I have seen that where like in previous conflicts it's usually been like small terrorist cells like blowing themselves up, or they lob a few rockets or something like that happens, right? But this seems to be something at a scale that we haven't seen in quite a while.
Yes. I put another article from the New York Post there where you can see various pictures. Some of these, like the one I'm showing to chat right here, this is obviously not a rocket hit. These are burnt out cars with the other cars nearby being fine. This is weapons fire, not artillery.
I did recall looking into this a little bit because the main belligerent on the Palestinian side is Hamas, and they're like violent. I have lost. Right? Shit. However, a secondary group that's operating in the area is the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which is a Marxist-Leninist group.
Of course.
Heresy's the question.
So you have
Fire
like
is the
the
answer.
Palestinian nationalists and the Palestinian socialists who are like teaming up to fight this war right now, basically.
And not even just that, we also have reports of the Taliban, apparently, for four groups, asking Iran, Iraq, and Jordan to grant them passage to Israel for volunteers to go and conquer Jerusalem. I'm not sure Taliban is in the position to conquer anything, but okay.
Well, they do have all that shit that the Americans left behind. Maybe they'll put it to good use.
I suppose so. Suppose that would be a thing. Somehow, I don't think the Iranian and Iraqis are going to be particularly happy with captured U.S. military hardware rolling across the desert in the general direction of Israel, though.
So when I joined in, you said that one of the big theories is that this was Russia supported, and the one that I've been seeing is that it's Iran supported.
Yes, that well, the one and the two are one and the same almost practically.
Oh, okay. How so?
Well, there was I'll send them here. So Hamas leadership visited Russia last year, where they were talking about Israel, as they tend to do. And there was apparently some meetings with a lot of shady figures in the Russian not-so-sanctioned military circles. There was also then talks that Iran apparently was in on this as well. Iran is a little bit of Russia on this one, as they're not very big fans of Israel. There's also the fact that I'm sure you've seen the footage of the Iranian parliament chanting "Death to Israel" as well.
I have seen that, in fact, yes.
Yes, and then we add on the fact that Biden recently released, I think it was $6 billion in frozen Iranian funding recently as well. So, if there was an opportunity... Oh, that was...
was it probably like a deal that he was making? Or?
Yes, I think it had to do with the whole hostage situation that had been going on for ages.
Okay, so we got a bunch of hostages back in exchange for the $6 billion, basically?
Yes, so...
Okay.
I'll delete that one.
Heresy's
Being
the
careful
question.
today.
Fire is the answer.
The idea is that this might have been a collaborative effort between Russia and Iran, in that Russia provided the hardware and the know-how, and then Iran supplied fighters and training specialists and perhaps the weapons themselves, as they have famously quite a few smuggling routes running into the Gaza Strip. In fact, a few years ago, you may have remembered that a lot of the NGOs, you know, the helpful NGOs, the humanitarian aid guys, quite a few of their ships were stopped and searched by Israel because they tended to carry RPGs in their load alongside the food rations.
Yeah, well, that was the whole thing with the bread tubers, right? Because they were either stupid or they didn't care what they were supporting.
Yes. So I do believe that this is probably an outside effort on some level, because this is an operation unlike anything Hamas has pulled off, I think, ever. Straight up, because this was a straight up invasion. It wasn't a handful of mortar rounds or anything. This had taken quite a while to plan as well, as they had claimed to have fired 5,000 missiles towards Israel. That's a serious stockpile. I mean, just building up enough missiles in ready positions to fire off 5,000 missiles requires some serious munition dumps.
Yeah, and I guess when it comes to the intelligence failure, it does seem to be a massive intelligence failure, because the Gaza Strip is not that big of a place. How did the Israeli intelligence or American intelligence not figure out that there was a buildup happening and that they were getting ready for this?
Well, that's where some of the other conspiracy theories are coming around as well, that Mossad didn't see this, and Mossad are usually on the ball, therefore this is some sort of... God damn it, YouTube. some sort of conspiracy on behalf of certain Western powers to enhance certain election securities.
Yeah.
I don't know about that either. I think that's rather far-fetched. Mossad are pretty good at what they do, but they're not flawless, as was demonstrated by Yom Kippur, for example. They fuck up too.
Yep.
Heresy's the question. Fire is the answer.
Let's see here, real quick. So what I did look into, what I've been following this story all day. I think most people have, to be honest. Is that the Palestinians, there's like those dramatic videos of like building equipment backhoes and stuff, like tearing down fences, tearing down the walls, and then the Palestinian fighters going through there.
Heresy's the
They're like
question.
fucking around
Fire
in
is
a
the
bunch of
answer.
towns in southern Israel. They've taken over a few areas. They've been killing civilians. They've been kidnapping civilians. There's a lot of dramatic footage of like Israeli women being like thrown into trucks and taken
Heresy's
away.
the question.
It's all
Fire
pretty
is the
terrible stuff
answer.
happening right now. However, I have not heard that much about an Israeli counterattack yet.
Well, you mentioned the like bulldozers tearing down the fences. That is not Hamas. That's Israel.
Oh, okay, all right. What's going on there?
Because Hamas appear to have created several pre-planned cuts in the wire, and they must have known where the patrols were as well, because none of this was spotted. All of this got through, and the Israeli army was none the wiser until police forces started engaging the Hamas soldiers in the streets. Meanwhile, Israel now is beginning to tear down large portions of fencing as well, because they intend to move everything into Gaza now. They have declared a full partial mobilization and a full ground invasion. That means IFVs, Merkavas, APCs, a lot of soldiers, and all of this is going to require large cleared paths to roll in.
So I guess that's basically something that they're currently setting up. I mean, this news is less than a day old, so
Yes.
I assume it'll be happening in the next day or two.
There's also the fact that Israel is almost certainly
Heresy's the
waiting
question.
for
Fire is
approval
the answer.
from Biden, which they have received more or less tacitly. As initially, there was a message. I'll post that in the link channel as well. This one popped up officially. This was U.S. official on Palestine Affairs. We unequivocally condemn the attack of Hamas, terrorists, and loss of life that has incurred. We urge all sides to refrain from violent and retaliatory attacks. Terror and violence solve nothing. So that is America going, no, Israel, don't shoot back. That has since been deleted, and Biden has since given the all clear, it seems. So I'm presuming we're going to see
guarantees citizenship.
Israeli armor rolling into Gaza in the next 24 hours, probably.
Yep. It was did the Americans give, was it $8 billion?
I believe so. I haven't been able to confirm that yet, because I haven't seen any proper sources on it.
I saw a whole bunch of that. Let me see here. Let's see if I can I find it. I know everyone's memeing about how like Zelensky's not getting it, so he's pissed, but I'm sure that's just memes.
There we go. Yes.
So this one here?
I just found something now from a non-Twitter source. U.S. President Biden approves emergency military aid package to Israel worth $8 billion.
Mm-hmm.
It also mentions that fighting is still continuing in 22 locations southern Israel. So there are actually several areas within Israel that are still occupied, fully or in part, by Hamas militia.
Yeah, I posted the Memorandum on Delegation of Authority under Section 506A1 of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. So there's the $8 billion.
This also,
right.
God, fucking okay. I'll say this too though. Like I'm probably pro-Israel in this conflict. I would rather they just fucking stop. But if I had to choose, I'll choose Israel. But America.
Yep.
Like, fuck off. Like, $8 more billion. 8 more. Like, just the other day, Biden forgave, I think, $9 billion in student debt. And this came days after further billions of dollars to Ukraine. And this comes days after the U.S. government ceasing to function, in essence, for a while. Going like, we don't have any money. Like, where the fuck are you going to get this shit from?
And this comes after the Build Back Better Act, which I think spent a whole bunch of money in aid to people affected by COVID. Like the Biden administration has been spending a lot of money recently.
It's like the billions are just flying out the fucking window, as if the U.S. has the money to spare.
Well, that's true. Like there's definitely the economics argument of maybe America shouldn't be spending so much in general, right? That's a fair argument. But in a more localized sense, like I've seen some people say that America shouldn't spend money on Israel because it's a foreign conflict. America shouldn't get involved.
I have
I don't agree with
lost-
that at all. Actually, I mean, if the argument is we don't have the money to spare, fine, you don't have the money to spare. But if the argument is we got to keep our heads in the sand, no, I don't think so. If America can afford it, it is good for America to spend money on its
Service
allies.
guarantees citizenship.
Sure, but America can't afford this. Like, America has gotten into the habit of being the big boy on the block, handing out billions like it's fucking candy, and this is unsustainable. It has been unsustainable for a very long time, and yet the US seems completely oblivious to this fact. Like, again, inflation is hitting America hard. Despite all of the headlines going like, "Oh, it's not that bad," you can see the Twitter post from inside the stores going like, "Look, the price I pay has gone up. I don't care what the White House is saying."
Mm-hmm. So I think what's happening is like the official inflation rate is the inflation across a whole bunch of different economic sectors.
Yes.
And when you look at like, okay, it was
Heresy's the
10% a year
Fire is
ago.
the
It's now
answer.
down to 3% this year. Well, that's good. But then you look at it like by sector, and you'll see that a lot of items for inflation have actually gone back to normal, and that's fine. But food hasn't, and that's the big one. The big one is food, and food hasn't, and also gas to a lesser extent. But food's the big one. Food hasn't gone back to normal, so that's where everyone's feeling the pinch, right?
Yep. And it's like the Ukraine thing as well. That's a forever war. That's simply going to grind on. This conflict at least has the possibility of ending if everyone would just, like I keep saying, the best thing we could do for Middle Eastern peace is to just all agree to not look towards the Middle East for 10, 20 years and then be surprised at Greater Israel. That's a dangerous comment perhaps on YouTube these days, but it's true.
Well, that's true, but the issue is that Russia and China aren't going to do that.
Yes,
and neither is Iran or Saudi Arabia, but they're like they're in the area, so it's their area. But like this idea, the whole American isolationism thing, it sounds really good on paper. I understand people's intuitions toward that position because of the disaster that was the Iraq War, but at the end of the day, America pulling back just makes more space for Russia and China to move forward. Because your enemies they're not gonna be isolationists. They're gonna take the advantage. And so America can't do that. They can't afford to do that. They can't afford to be isolationist.
Yep, and that is true as well. But this is also Israel. Like $8 billion. Like Israel has like the largest army in the area. They can handle this. This is not Ukraine. Now, of course, mobilizing does do serious damage to Israeli economy, but I just don't like it. I mean, I get your argument. I do. But I'm also sitting here, it's like, this is $8 billion more out the window as I see inflation across the world go up. And I know America is weakening its own dollar more and more and clinging desperately to that petrodollar, going like, it'll be fine. Even as we're gearing up with conflicts with China and Russia,
I have lost.
even as the Middle East is beginning to look at America and going like, you don't like our values. Oh. Just globally speaking, this is such a shit show.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like right now there's really no good solutions to any of the problems that we're facing, right?
No.
So, you can take in a bunch of immigrants because we're not having enough kids, and that's going to have some serious cultural problems, especially if they don't integrate. Or you can close the borders and then have your economy collapse because you're not having enough kids, and you're still not having enough kids, right? Like those two possible futures are both bad futures. They're bad in different ways, but they're both bad, right? It's the same thing with like Russia and Ukraine or with Israel and Palestine. Like America can fund the side that is in her interest to fund, and then at least have some stake in the game, which is then it puts forward their interest. They then have a future in the area. They then take away a future in the area from their opponents, or they can pull back and save their money and potentially save their own soldiers' lives, but then just give up the conflict to their enemies. And if you give up enough conflicts to your enemies, they will eventually come for you because you can't appease forever, right? So there's no good solution here. There's only like, can I advance my interests or can I ignore my interests? Those are the only solutions. There's no good solution.
Yep, it's not a great situation all around, frankly. Honestly, again, the only way this is going to finish, because these sides can't coexist. So, do you know the rationale for this latest offensive?
I do not. Fill me in.
So, the operation is called Al-Aqsa Flood because Hamas claims that Israel has been desecrating the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem by carrying out religious practices nearby. Like, this sounds like... I'm sorry, but this sounds like fucking barbarian shit, okay? It's like the enemy's wizards are casting spells near our holy place. What can we do? Like, fuck on, come on.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, if it comes to, let's say, you know, Western morality, Western sensibility, this is, this is just like, why should we care about this, right? If we're talking about politics, well, then, you know, we have teams and we have sides and we have interests. If we're talking about the morality of the situation, there's no reason for us to give a shit about, oh, you know, there was like a religious desecration. Well, okay, that sounds like a something that I'm not interested in. You know, as an atheist, I don't care.
It is such a thoroughly retarded reason for all of this, in my opinion, but it is also probably a good old-fashioned excuse because there is an Israeli holiday going on. And as we saw with Yom Kippur, that is the best time to to start this shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably one of those situations where basically the Palestinians were given the opportunity by getting all of this funding or all of these weapons or something, and they said, "Great, we're going to use them." Wait, what's our excuse? Well, this is the excuse. Like, they're doing it because they can now. It's as simple as that.
Yes, and again, they're claiming that this was in response, right, to the Jewish people standing outside and, as the chat says, chanting "wolololol," expecting to convert the mosque, I suppose. But you don't stockpile 5,000 missiles in a weekend. You don't prepare multiple infiltration points around Israeli
Service
patrols
guaranteed
overnight.
citizenship.
Like this has been in preparation for a very, very long time. So this more than likely was a simple excuse.
You don't set up guys who like parachute in using paragliders. Did you see that footage, Arch?
I haven't seen the footage, but I have heard that Hamas sent in infiltrators via paragliders to cross the border, which is, I respect the fucking grind, I guess.
They launched like some paragliding guys to go over the wall. They're just like, they're using all possible. Oh man, they were doing like boats under the cover of night, and there was footage released by the Israelis where they were basically blowing them up using night vision.
Mm-hmm.
So like they had these little speed boats zipping along, and then they were just getting blown up from like 2 kilometers away.
Yep, the Israeli Coast Guard does not fuck about. You operate in their area without proper signaling, you go boom boom.
Yep.
So it could have been a lot.
1,000 Palestinian militants infiltrated using trucks, motorcycles, bulldozers, speedboats, and paragliders.
And paragliders.
Jesus.
And fucking paragliders.
Yeah. But a lot of it has been just been like indiscriminate civilian attacks, not just military attacks, right?
The majority of it has been indiscriminate. Like, they claim to have captured 14 tanks, heavy quotation marks, as we saw in the beginning of the Ukraine war, where they would bring up like an APC on the screen and go like, tank! So, I don't know about that just yet, but...
Yeah, I've seen like captured armor, and it's like a pickup truck with a gun mounted in the back, and it's like, all right.
Tank!
Yeah, I've seen a lot of footage of them not just attacking military targets, but you know, they opened fire at an outdoor nature festival. Jesus, hold on.
Yes.
Pull this up.
The reports there are very conflicting. Some claim that as many as 100 people were killed there alone, with several hundred more injured. And I mean, to be fair, if you've got a squad's worth of dudes with automatic weaponry opening up on a crowd, I can see it.
Yep. But there's been a lot of like just going. From what I've heard from people, I know at least one person who lives in Israel, and I've been asking I've been asking them about what's going on, and basically every civilian is told to just like stay home, don't
Yep.
go to work, don't go to school, just lock your fucking doors and like stay in the basement because they're just going house to house and shooting people. I have lost.
Yes, I do have seen reports of that, of the militants, because again, this is kind of a new type of war, in a way, because this isn't a simple terrorist attack. A terrorist attack would be them launching a few
Heresy's
missiles,
the question.
or
Fire is the
bombing a
answer.
house or two, or something like that, right? And it isn't an invasion either, because they're not going for military targets. They're not striking at the Israeli command structure or attacking like platoons of Israeli soldiers.
Heresy's the question.
They are specifically
Fire is the
targeting
answer.
the civilian population in military strength using military tactics. Like, this is, not to be too sensationalist, but this is a war of extermination that they're waging here.
Yeah, it is. Apparently there's not much in the way of private gun ownership in Israel, which is like
Which seems like a
wild
bad
to
fucking
me.
idea.
Yeah, you think you'd have a Second Amendment considering their current situation, at least for like the Jewish people.
Yeah, like, I don't know. If I was living in Israel, I think I would explore my rights as a gun owner, let's say.
Yeah.
There's also the fact, though, bearing in mind that there has been a lot of political upheaval in Israel recently as well. I think they were on like their third repeat election recently. There's been a lot of back and forth between what we here in the West would term the far right and the far left. So,
Well, yeah. What I've been seeing though is that that's basically ended. Like all of the parties at this point. Have
yeah,
said,
I would
"Okay,
imagine
this-
right now they're not bickering.
Yeah, they basically said, "Listen, all right, we're gonna put aside our differences for now, and we're just going to support the government and support the military because there's some shit going down." So like the political bickering has basically stopped in Israel, at least temporarily.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find the. I saw an article saying that, but I can't find it now. Give me a second.
It's like the chat mentions they should have adopted the Swiss solution. Honestly, they should have. Yes, like, I swear to God, Israel should be almost nothing but fucking machine gun bunkers at this point. Like, Christ. This keeps happening. You'd think they would realize it keeps happening at some point and take precautions, but then again, on the other hand, nobody expected this. They expected either a terrorist attack, as in a bomb or two, or some mortar shells, or some rockets, or a straight-up military invasion, a la Yom Kippur, etc. This was a hybrid threat, and so Israel probably just simply didn't imagine that this could happen. And that might also explain why Mossad didn't pick up on it, because they couldn't imagine this particular scenario, I would guess.
Oh, okay. A spokesperson for Palestinian Islamic Jihad has stated that they're not killing civilians because the people elect their governments, and therefore everyone is a military target.
Aha. Aha.
So,
Aha.
basically, there are no civilians in Israel because it's a democracy, and therefore they're all morally culpable for the responsibilities of the government. The government does, yeah.
Well, yeah, that that certainly does sound like Islamic cope, Joe.
Yeah.
Aha, indeed. Okay, well, that's a rationale.
I still can't find that article, but it's not hard to believe that basically all their political parties would put aside their feuds at this point and be like, okay, we're all working together on this one, at least for now.
Mm-hmm. There's also, now, as to the military effect of this as well, because there's the picture of the Merkava that is knocked out. It seems to be the same Merkava in many different shots. I think there might be two Merkavas. It's a bit difficult to tell, but you've got pictures of like Hamas militants posing around the Merkava, for example, for a nice little propaganda shot. So, as to the amount of military damage done, it's quite difficult to tell. There's also a picture of these I presume to be the tanks captured. These appear to be M113s, I think, or something. Some ancient piece of surplus American hardware. Tanks.
How old is this tank?
The M113 is like, oh god, Vietnam era?
50 years then?
It's not recent, shall we say. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's an M113. Yeah, I am like 98% certain. Let me see. When was it introduced into service? 1960s, so it's what, 70 years or something old now? It's closing in on a century. Tanks, indeed.
Man, there's just tons of videos. Like, it's almost an inexhaustible supply of just people recording what's going on.
Yep.
Stuff happening in there's like here's a video of they're just driving in on motorbikes. It's like, well, here they come, driving across the driving across the wasteland. Just a bunch of motorbikes waving flags. They're just using whatever they have at their
Heresy's the
disposal,
question.
basically, to do this.
Fire is the answer.
Yep, they are.
So from what I've heard, or from what I've seen, basically, Israel's 3 objectives: one is to clear out the hostile force. Secondly, is to exact an immense price from Gaza.
I have lost.
The third objective is to reinforce other fronts so that nobody should mistakenly join the war. I've heard rumblings that this might be another one of those situations where a bunch of Arab countries tried to jump on Israel again. That did happen, and then they all lost. That did happen in the past.
Like, chat, I'm not calling them tanks, you little shits. I won't stand for this. The Hamas claims that they captured 14 tanks, and here you can see the tanks.
Heresy's the question. Fire is the
I've said
answer.
this in APC, you little shits. Don't you trust me? I know the difference between a tank and an APC. Well, bastards. But yes, to return to Dev's point, that is very much so a thing as well. Because one of the things that Israel's probably... Cause this is the thing. Israel's gonna have to fucking clap back as hard as they conceivably can right now. Because the only reason why Israel exists is because everyone around Israel knows that they don't fuck about. So if they allow themselves to be taken advantage of like this, suddenly Egypt and Iran and Jordan and everyone around them is going to start looking at Israel like, maybe you're not so dangerous after all.
Shit.
Now, I will point out also, though, I don't think either of the usual countries, with the exception of Iran, have been chanting death to
Service
Israel,
guarantees citizenship.
have come out and said anything publicly in favor of Hamas either, which is interesting, because normally they would be all like, our Islamic brothers, yeah, etc. But they've been suspiciously quiet. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing, because perhaps the bluster would have been preferable. Perhaps the fact that they're not blustering indicates that they didn't know this was happening either, and they're currently wondering if they could take advantage of it.
I just found this.
I have lost.
Hold on. Turkey has just targeted a bunch of sites in northeastern Syria for attack. And now this is
I have lost.
This is unrelated to this story, obviously, but I wonder if this is them being like, "Quick, no one's looking. Let's do what we wanted to do."
Let's see. So Hezbollah fighters and most likely to approach the border fence with Israel, south of Lebanon, and then town of Metula. Yeah, so now the thing you pointed out earlier as well, there seems to be multiple terrorist organizations now beginning to move in to try and take advantage of the situation. Even as Turkey takes, indeed, as you said, the opportunity. They're like, oh hey, we're not the target of attention anymore. Boom.
Yeah, this sounds like a whole bunch of just Middle Eastern shitholism, you know?
Yep. Because this is classic. Like, this happens every time, like, there's a major U.S. election, for example, when nobody knows who's going to win, or there's, like, a big change of power. Suddenly, the Middle East just goes fucking mad, because Daddy America isn't watching.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I can show you this, but you can't put it on screen, Arch. This is, a bunch of people getting gunned down at a bus stop.
Yep, definitely gotta show that. We're not the
Can't show
mainstream
that.
media.
Nope. Yep. I think at this point, if you've been on Twitter at all today, you've definitely seen the pictures of like the women being tied up and thrown in the back of the trucks and stuff, and then driven away. Like I think we've all seen that before.
Yes. Any question as to whether or not they have been targeting civilians, I think is well and truly moot. They have. It seems pretty clear.
Yeah. Yep.
Fuck. Why? Holy shit. Yeah, no, I definitely can't show you this, chat, but this is a Twitter account? How the fuck do these people have a Twitter account?
Which account is that? The one that I linked?
Yeah, the Popular Front. Like, there's straight up, like, yeah, there's worse than, if you scroll slightly up, there's worse than the one you mentioned. A lot worse. How the fuck is this Twitter account still up?
Maybe because it has, like, journalistic value?
I mean, either that's a lot of jam on the floor all over the journalistic value, or I think this is a pretty blatant TOS violation.
I'm sure they'll be banned soon enough.
Now,
there's this one. This one doesn't have any blood, it looks like.
71,000 followers. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, yep. Well,
I don't think this one has any blood, but they're saying that there was an Israeli commander was captured. And this is apparently the highest profile capturing of an Israeli military official basically ever.
right, Israeli commander Nimrod Aloni has been captured by Hamas in the ongoing war in the border areas near Gaza. Reading from Twitter here. Aloni is commander of the Depth Corps, the IDF's deep operation unit that works in Palestine territories. He's also the former commander of their Gaza division. The picture is not conclusive, but it does look like him, I agree. I'm not going to show this one either, chat, just to be sure, because, you know, this is terrorists abducting people, and I feel as if YouTube might frown on it. This is, why the fuck is this Twitter account still live?
You know what? After this story moves out of the spotlight, I'm sure it'll be quietly banned.
Yep, I'm kind of hoping so. Like Alex Jones Twitter account, nah, it's a bit much, but these guys, yeah, and this is fine. This is fine.
I mean, it's pretty bad, but like I've seen similar things from Ukraine, right? Where like people have been blown up or there's been an attack, and there is journalistic reasons to show that kind of footage.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure the Popular Front is not a accredited journalistic organization. Excuse my skepticism on the matter.
Well, they do call themselves a media and news company.
Yeah.
They do grassroots reporting on global conflict.
Yeah, I'm a media company too.
Oh, they're on Patreon. How much do they make on Patreon?
You fucking kidding me?
Popular Front on Patreon.
Sargon can't have a Patreon account, but these guys can. Fuck me.
They have 2,500 donators on Patreon.
Okay, chat. I'm not much of a cancel culture guy, but
I have lost.
Maybe.
Let's see. Popular Front is a grassroots media organization that focuses solely on war and conflict. I have lost. We go deeper than mainstream news in a way that makes important war coverage accessible for everyone. We're not interested in agendas, political trends, or online arguments. We're also 100% independent.
Indeed.
Founded by Jake Hanrahan, a British journalist. Who's this guy?
Sounds like Al Jazeera to me.
It might be. I have lost. Shit. Let me see here.
As of course, the optics war is also ongoing. Aforementioned Al Jazeera is of course on the ground,
lost. Shit.
Covering stuff as well. I particularly like this one, where you've got the Al Jazeera reporter standing in front of just a casual high-rise building that gets blown up. They're like, oh my god, the Israelis, they're bombing random civilian buildings. Except for the fact that, of course, this particular high-rise has been identified multiple times as a headquarter of Hamas military operations, but, details. What are you looking into? Baloki? Ah, yes.
Okay. Jake Hanrahan, British journalist, documentary filmmaker from the East Midlands. He started his career working with Vice. He's been published in The Guardian, Esquire, Rolling Stone, and Wired. He's been embedded with the Ukrainian ground forces, but also with the separatist forces as well. So he has at least seen both sides of that conflict.
Okay. To be fair, his credentials are looking better, but I still question the heavy sprays of jam allowed on Twitter, mind you.
Oh, he was affiliated with the Kurdistan Workers' Party, trying to split off from Turkey.
Oh, okay. Looking less accredited.
He's done investigations on Atomwaffen Division and also on QAnon.
Of course.
Yeah. This guy, he seems to be, he has some sort of left-wing bent for sure. That sort of seems to be the case.
Well, that explains how he has a Patreon account.
Mm-hmm. But he also does seem to do a lot of actual real on-the-ground reporting too.
I am still dubious of the jam on Twitter, but fair enough. There's some wider implications here, though, as well. Some quite wider implications, in fact, as we are, of course, closing in on election season. It seems like we're always closing on a fucking election season. But the Republicans in the US have not been slow either to point out that it was indeed Biden who released the $6 billion in frozen Iranian funding just before this happened, so...
Mm-hmm. I know, the White House says the $6 billion in unfrozeable Iranian assets has not been spent and will only be used for humanitarian aid. Yeah. Even if that were true, money is still fungible, right? So it doesn't really matter. Like, you can only this is the whole thing about food stamps, right? One of the big reasons why food stamps as a program doesn't really work. It's like, here, I'm gonna give you food stamps because you're poor, but I don't want you to spend it on drugs. Okay, so you get your food stamps, you buy your food. Well, that means that the money that you have can be used to buy drugs instead of food. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
On some level, if you give somebody some resources and you say you can't use this for a purpose that I don't like, they can actually follow your command and still get whatever it is that they want that you don't like, because you've now just given them more resources in general.
Yes. All Iran would have to do was go like, oh, sweet, we've got $6 extra billion we can move from our food budget into something else. And not to mention, it's like, okay, Iran promised us they totally wouldn't use this for bombs, guys. Like, oh, okay. Well, consider me reassured. I do wonder how this is actually going to come across over in the US of A, though, because it's been relatively quiet in the Middle East for a while, and I think a lot of Americans are just starting to get sick of all of this now. We've had a couple, we've got a year plus now of Ukraine. People are starting to get pretty sick of that. The fabled summer offensive came and went and didn't go anywhere. And it seems to just be grinding on. The various little wars in the Middle East as well, the civil wars, those are still going with no end in sight. And now we get this. I'm wondering if America will care, frankly.
Well, I think on some level they're just not going to care, because they're tired of forever wars, and they're tired of funding foreign wars. On some level, they're not going to care just because it's somewhere else. Like, what does it matter, right? However, at the same time, Jews are definitely more well regarded in American culture than the Palestinians are, for sure. They're certainly more. They certainly contribute more to America. Um, there's definitely a better relationship between America and Israel than any other country in the Middle East. So I think they'll like some of them will care, but I don't think this is going to change your average American's life. You know.
Probably not. See, the thing is too, like, America has always been fairly on the pro-Israeli side to one degree or another. Although this has been going back and forth, because here's the thing too, Israel's not exactly the hapless victim in all of this either. Israel has done plenty of naughty things themselves. Hell,
Heresy's the
the
question.
entire
Fire
idea
is the
of
answer.
Israel was a bad idea. I'm not talking about the nation, I'm talking about the execution. When after World War II, the British were just like, how about we plonk them down over here, but we're surrounded by people who hate us. Yeah, good luck. Through some fucking miracle and a lot of grit, Israel is still there today.
Yeah, I mean it was done poorly, but I mean it is done, and
It is done.
there's only so much you can go back and like demand reparations for things that happened 100 years ago. It becomes kind of unrealistic eventually, and so like with the situation as it currently stands, no take backsies at this point, guys. Um, it seems like the Palestinians
Service
are
guarantees
for the most
citizenship.
part the bad guys in this one, even though
Yes.
Israel doesn't have the best history.
Well, they're the ones launching the attacks, quite simple as.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, though, if this is the beginning or the end. Because on the one hand, if nothing else happens, I imagine that Israel will do what Israel usually does when this happens and take revenge to a degree that might be some be considered mildly inappropriate, which I actually think is probably appropriate, because again, the only reason why Israel exists is because everyone around them are scared shitless of them. Or are, because again, there's clearly a lot of stuff built up here, and I want to put forward the little thing, right? Hamas, this isn't their first time around the block, right? They launched 5,000 missile attacks on day one, and then they continue to launch missile attacks during the night, and they're still fighting in like 20-odd areas. Hamas isn't going to be like, oh, haha, we got you. Now you're not going to retaliate. They know what's going to happen next, so I'm kind of wondering, are they 4D chessing this, or are they actually just retarded? Because I don't think they can fight the Israeli army. I don't think for a second they can fight the Israeli army.
I have a feeling they might just be retarded. This might just be like religious fanaticism, where they're like, we're gonna launch our 5,000 rockets, and we're gonna just hope for the best. It's like, come on. I think that's actually might be what's happening here, because they've done that a lot, you know.
Yeah. So then we're gonna sit back and we're gonna take lots of video of Israel bombing civilians, and we're gonna go like, oh, woe is us, and maybe.
Woe is us. Give us more money, stupid Westerners, so that we can buy 5,000 more rockets.
Yeah. Hey, bread tube, we're being attacked.
Oh my God! Did you see Vosh's take? Holy fuck!
No. How bad is it?
Do you feel like having brain damage?
Sure. Why the hell not?
Let's see if I can find it here.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Here you go.
All right. Let's see.
Check that shit out.
Let's see. First and foremost, a quick scan if there's anything dangerous.
I have lost. Shit.
Okay, there we go. The straight Voshian take. Israel uses its immensely disproportionate power to inflict wretched conditions on Palestinians. Wretched conditions engender resentment and guarantee terrorism. Israel uses terrorism as justification to worsen conditions, and the cycle repeats. I don't know. That sounds like victim blaming to me, but
like that's not necessarily incorrect, but it completely removes all of the responsibility of the Palestinians to do something different.
well, in fact, he goes on, I really hope Israel recognizes the nation's policies, essentially guarantees conflict and jeopardizes the safety of both them and the Palestinians, and only Israel has the power to alter the conditions that led to things like this horrific attack from Hamas. No, like, Hamas is fully within their power to choose to not bomb Israel as well. That's,
well,
that's
it's
hardly
also
feasible.
that it's also, even if we, like, Israel's like, fine, we'll back down, we'll disarm, that just means that Hamas is just going to kill them at this point.
Yes.
That's it.
That's simple as. Like, again, I want to repeat this. The only reason why Israel exists as a nation is because every time somebody's picked on them, they've punched the bully in the nose. Without this, there is no Israel. Like, Israel's entire security policy rests on them being considered at least mildly unreasonable by their neighbors. Because, here's the thing. When Israel attacks, it does like targeted bombing strikes. It attacks military targets, etc. When Hamas attacks, they go door to door shooting people. There's no comparing the two.
But the power imbalances.
The power imbalance.
The historic conditions, Arch, you have to understand. It's so stupid, right? Like, people keep saying proportionate response. No. Okay. This applies to almost every conflict, not just this one. But the whole proportionate response thing is bullshit. It just is, all right? If you're going to war, you don't go to give them a proportionate response to what they give you. You go to war to win, all right? You go to war to destroy your enemy and make sure that they will never go to war against you again.
Yeah, no, unironically. Like, the reason why this has continued is because Israel is not either willing to or have been given the free reins to make Gaza not be Gaza. Like, simple as. Like, that's the reason why. They are allowing a terrorist state, which has repeatedly demonstrated their willingness to commit terrorism, exist on their borders.
Yes, exactly. Right? And honestly, I apply this to Ukraine and Russia as well. Right? Like, Ukraine's being invaded. I'm completely fine with flooding them with billions of dollars of unused military equipment. Give it to them. Allow the empower the Ukrainians to fight as hard as they like, basically, right? And the Ukrainians should fight as hard as they like. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, we can't get. No. This is the right thing to do.
Yep. The only way this conflict ends is when one side wins. Simple as. Like, there appears to be no real question here.
That's a super chat. Dev, winning a war is so last century.
That's true.
Yeah. The thing is like it's gonna sound really strange to say, but it is the truth. On some level, this is our team, right? Like, we have functioning liberal capitalist democracies, and then we have third world authoritarian shitholes. And it's like, well, I don't want to risk any sort of. It's already here. All right, the fighting is already here. It's already happening. They have brought it to us. Therefore, the only thing we can do is fight it or surrender.
Yeah. And hey, you can launch plenty of valid criticism at Israel as well, particularly on the democratic front on occasion. But in the question of Hamas or Israel, yes, the West has its guy.
If everyone in the chat is now saying, like, Israel is not our team, is Palestine your team?
Yeah, no, see, that's the issue. Like, if you have to choose a side here, and again, the U.S. could just simply ignore all of it, and I frankly think maybe they just should. At the very least, withhold the funding. Jesus Christ.
Here's one thing I said, though. If America ignores it, that will simply be a vacuum.
Yes.
Right? China can get in there. Russia can get in there. Any domain which America ignores because of isolationism or whatever other nonsense, that is simply another domain that you hand to your enemies and say, here, take this. Everything here is yours. All of the political capital, all the economic capital, all the resources, all the favors with other people. It's all yours, Russia and China. Have it for free. Which is why isolationism just doesn't work. It feels really good to advocate for, but it just doesn't work.
You've also got to remember that America's strategic position in all of this, Israel is their only solid regional ally. And without the Middle East, America cannot maintain the petrodollar. Without the petrodollar, America ceases to exist as a nation. They can't back down.
Heresy's the
not
question.
Possible.
Fire is the answer.
People in the chat are asking, Dev, are you pro-American imperialism?
Yes.
Listen, when the choices are American imperialism or Chinese imperialism, I will take American imperialism. I will wave that flag 24/7, no fucking problem, dude.
Now, see, I too am pro-American imperialism because it allows my nation to spend all of its money on frivolous luxuries and social health care whilst you defend us.
Exactly. But also just in terms of like, there's no non-world hegemon option. So
Yes.
who would you rather the world hegemon be?
Yes.
The obvious answer is America, right?
Yeah. In a conflict between where we have Russia pretending to be like, I'm a superpower. Calm down, Russia.
Heresy's the question.
Between
Fire is
China
the
and
answer.
America, yeah, I'll take America. They're gonna make all of my entertainment homosexual, but fuck, it's better than the alternative, I guess.
Plus, arch lesbians aren't that bad.
That's true.
Heresy's the
I am
question.
old enough to
Pretty good.
remember
Fire is
when
the
lesbians
answer.
were considered a good thing.
Don't you miss those days?
I do, kind of, yes.
I mean, they are coming back slowly. Slowly but surely, we're getting there.
Slowly but surely.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Slowly but surely, indeed.
So yeah, Neon Reagan says, actually, Neon Reagan, I haven't seen you around in my chat for a while. Did you abandon me, buddy? Dev, not everyone gets off on seeing dead soldiers coming back in boxes covered in
Heresy's
flags.
the
Listen,
question.
I'm not getting
Fire
off
is
on
the
it.
answer.
I'm saying there is no alternative. That's it. The alternative is that your soldiers come back in boxes and you win, and your way of life gets to continue, or you can have Chinese tanks rolling down your street. Pick one.
It is in many cases quite that stark. There is also now proper confirmation. I believe it was rumored first that Israel was deploying. That appears to have been confirmed later on now. So there's probably not going to be anything happening from the Israeli side tonight. But tomorrow I'm expecting biblical things to happen.
You don't think it'll happen overnight? I'm not going to do anything under the cover of darkness?
No, because most of their stuff is going to be reservists anyways. They're not going to want to move into a heavily urbanized area with an entrenched opposition at night. That's simply just a bad idea, largely.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not. Maybe if they go in with overwhelming force, maybe they could do it. But you know what they should do? Just we all know the Israelis have nuclear weapons. They haven't revealed it, but we all know it's the case. You know what they should do?
Well, they have
Maybe
weapon,
I shouldn't say
at
it on
least.
YouTube. Maybe I shouldn't say it on YouTube. Okay, go ahead.
Plus, they're a little bit too close to the detonation zone to carry out your theoretical plan here. But no, it is true. Israel has at least one bomb, which they will
Has at least one bomb.
which they will use in case of tourism.
Tourism?
Yes.
Is that what we're calling it now?
Yeah, that's what we're calling it now.
But yeah, man, in terms of just like dumb online takes, I've seen a lot of, let's say, radicals on the right and radicals on the left who are both just anti-America coming out in full like pro-Palestine support. And it's like, all right, guys, Jesus, man, it's so stupid. It's so dumb.
Like, really, I haven't seen a whole lot of pro-Palestine because I mean,
I've seen my share of it.
this one's difficult to defend. Like, yes, militiamen are moving through the streets shooting civilians. Like, that's a hard line to hold, in my opinion.
If you're a radical, you can justify that shit. They're like, they're the oppressed and they're killing their oppressors, sort of nonsense, you know.
Of course, the oppressed class rising up. I see. I sometimes forget that the opposition can be absolutely fucking batshit insane.
Oh man, okay. Did you
Heresy's
see
the
that one
question.
video of
Fire
the
is the
naked woman
answer.
with dreadlocks who was dead in the back of a pickup truck? And she, like,
I don't think so.
no? Okay, there was a video. She had clearly been raped, and she was dead, naked, face down in the back of a pickup. A bunch of guys sitting on top of her, just like kicking the shit out of her corpse. By the way, you can't play that video on.
No shit.
But they did finally discover who she was, and she was a German citizen who was visiting Israel. She wasn't even Israeli.
Bad time for a fucking vacation.
Yeah, Jesus.
Well, I suppose we'll see what the Superchats have to say as well. So I'm sure there's plenty of points in there too. But just as a quick little wrap up before we get into that as well. There is an opening here, I believe, to perhaps wrap this shit up for good. Because this is an unprecedented attack on a scale and a level of savagery that has not been seen before.
In this conflict, anyway, yeah.
Yes, I think the various Arab powers are looking very closely at this and judging Israel's response, which I think is going to have to be overwhelming. And if they're gonna go in full force, they might as well get it over with at this point and occupy Gaza. Because this shit is just going to keep happening. And Hamas has clearly gotten very, very brave now. Because again, this wasn't a terrorist attack. This was a full-blown offensive. That might also be playing into their hands. Like, I have this niggling little voice in the back of my head that seems to think, like, this seems like strategic suicide on every level. Maybe they'd prepared for that, because the Gaza Strip is heavily urbanized. Lots of troops with... I mean, again, they managed to stockpile 5,000 missiles. God alone knows what else shit they've got in there. Enough determined militants with enough RPG-7s sitting on rooftops could make this a very expensive and drawn-out operation for Israel as well. The Hamas's idea might be... like we kind of said, just like, derp, poke the bear, or they might be hoping to... Cause what I find suspicious is, the Taliban is going like, herka-durka, we're going to help too. And other terrorist organizations are moving in. Like, there seems to be a lot of movement too far from each other for me to... It seems coordinated on a much grander scale.
I have lost.
It could be that Hamas is planning to try and draw in Israel and attempt to demonstrate Israel's weakness, hoping to cause a serious split, both within Israel, who we already know is politically unstable, trying to like force the opposition to start condemning the war, whilst weakening Israel in the eyes of its neighbor and terrorist organizations, whilst then also hoping that the West is not going to be willing to intercede on a large scale for Israel because they're already getting sick of the conflict in Ukraine. In other words, they might have a grander goal in sight. What do you think about that?
I just got sent this by one of my viewers. It's related to a previous topic, Arch, but I think you'll want to see it. So,
you're fucking kidding me.
What? What do you mean?
I don't know. Just see. Israel told Palestine and Gaza to leave the strip, promising that Gaza will be turned to rubble. Yeah, I suppose I can show this. This is fair enough. And yeah, there is a whole convoy of armor and IFVs right there.
Yeah, rolling in tonight. So basically, this basically sounds like we're going to turn Gaza into glass. So get the fuck out if you can get the fuck out, because we're rolling in.
Yeah, and to be fair, that is probably what is going to have to happen regardless, because if Hamas is digging in, like I think they might be, for extended resistance, and bear in mind too, these fuckers have no compunctions whatsoever about using civilian housing and civilians themselves as cover whatsoever. So if the IDF is going to do this, they're going to have to clear house by house. And we know how Israelis clear houses effectively.
They might just blow up every house.
Fire is the answer.
Yes. See, that's the thing with urban combat like this. If you want to safely take a structure in an urban battlefield, well, reconnaissance by fire, as is the official term, is often the safest solution.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like what it seems like is we're going to see some crazy shit go down tomorrow. Maybe
Quite
overnight.
possible.
Maybe while we're all sleeping. Maybe while we're all sleeping, something wild will go down. We'll wake up to some strange some news on this.
Well, I would honestly expect this to take weeks.
Service
Like,
guaranteed
even if they go
citizenship.
in full force, full cray-cray, it's still gonna take weeks. Because, again, urban fighting like this is slow as hell. It is torturous.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Hold on. Remember...
I have lost shit.
what do you think about the whole that Hamas might have a long-term plan, though, Dev?
I don't think so. This might actually be like the Hamas dying gasp. I have lost. In fact. So there's a few like maybe Hamas has a long-term plan, and if they do, that probably means they're getting some sort of funding or support from other groups. I kind of doubt it. I feel like this might be like the end of Hamas, and they're kind of like dying and lashing out at the very end, right? That's possible too, where this is the final gasp. Because I have heard a few things about how basically due to the the years long blockade of Gaza, they're now finally starting to run out of food and water.
Possibly.
So maybe that's the case. I don't know. I don't think there's a long-term plan here. Because the third option is we just got a bunch of money. Let's try and kill
Heresy's
Israel
the
again.
question.
So we'll just
Fire is
launch
the
all of our
answer.
rockets, and if we pray hard enough, it'll work out for us. And that sounds like it's probably what it is. It's just like religious delusion.
If anything, they're hoping that the other Arab nations will join in, which, on the one hand, the timing could not possibly be better. The West is distracted with Ukraine. There's a highly conscientious election coming up in America. And Iran just got access to $6 billion. So if Hamas was going to make a play for it, or make it or break it, all or nothing, this is probably the time.
I have lost.
We'll see, though.
Shit.
Like, I think them simply being retarded is as much of a realistic chance, though.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm like, okay, hold on. Here, don't show this, Arch. This is what I was talking. This is that girl that I was talking about. Don't show it, but that's. It seems like it's her.
Yes, there are already rumors beginning to swirl around this too.
This is it, man. It is. I think it was back when the Ukrainian-Russian war first kicked back off a couple of years ago. Everyone, or was it? It was like 2 years ago now, wasn't it? It's been a long time. Jeez.
Close to 2 years, I
Year and
think.
a half? Yeah. Everyone was saying that this was going to be the first war that was like basically streamed live on the internet. There was going to be so many people with so many cell phones, so much footage coming out.
Heresy's the question.
And we have seen a fair bit
Fire
of
is
it,
the answer.
but we're seeing a lot of footage of this now too, of this
Uh-huh.
one. Wars in the 2020s are.
Everyone's got a high resolution camera in their fucking pocket. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's got one, so there's no reason why we wouldn't see endless amounts of footage of this, really. Alright, let's.
Yep.
Let's.
So,
Go on.
oh, just the night operations are starting to happen since it is night over there.
Are
We're
they?
seeing lots of bombs dropped from a distance. You know.
Oh yeah, but those don't. Dev, you goddamn
What?
military noob.
What?
Though those aren't ground operations.
No. You're right. I don't mean to say ground operations. Sorry, I mean to say like you got a bunch of people driving around in a pickup truck in the middle of the night after they had just gone through and like destroyed some family's life, and now they're getting bombed from the sky as they drive back home.
Yes. See, fighting at night on the ground is difficult. In the air, It really does not matter.
It's pretty easy, yeah.
This is one of the things as well, like, one of the reasons why the Palestinian infiltrators are holding in place and fighting where they are isn't necessarily because they have any hope of winning. It's because I don't think they can retreat.
Oh, my... Okay, Arch, you gotta read this fucking take.
All right.
From everyone's favorite porn star, Mia Khalifa.
Mia Khalifa. Why does Mia Khalifa have an
Heresy's
opinion
the
on this?
question. Fire is the answer.
Mia Khalifa says, can someone please tell the freedom fighters in Palestine to flip their phones and film horizontally?
I have lost. Shit. God damn it, Mia. What a stupid. It's like, okay. All right.
I mean, I'm presuming she was attempting to be funny.
Don't scroll down. Her porn's down there.
Thank
Because
you
of course
for
it
the
is.
warning. I
So, yeah,
presume this was an attempt at humor. I presume.
Maybe. She's become more
Service
like
guarantees
pro Middle
citizenship.
East as she's moved further and further away from being a porn actress.
Well, I imagine.
I don't think her family's taking her back, though. I don't think her family's taking her back.
Seeing as I'm pretty sure the Middle East has opinions about pornography.
They also have opinions about her since she did a lot of her porn in a hijab. There was
Yeah,
a lot of people who
yeah.
wanted to kill her for that.
Yeah, that sounds like it's designed to maybe piss off a certain demographic, I admit. The freedom fighters. I'm sorry. Okay, Mia Khalifa. Okay, just to clarify this, in case you're wondering, you did porn in a hijab, apparently, according to Dev here.
Yes.
You calling them freedom fighters is not going to make them take you back. Like this is not a recoverable position. It really is not. You are better off going further to the west, really. But oh well. I am not this female's keeper.
It's, there's a lot going on right now, but the story is also kind of simple in a way, right? Like, we
Heresy's
basically
the
know
question.
what Israel's going
Fire
to
is
do
the
in the next few
answer.
days because it's obvious. It's what they should do.
Yes,
You
the
know?
question is about scale. I hope they actually finish this fight and get it over with, frankly.
Are you calling for a
Service
final solution,
guarantees
Arch?
citizenship.
The Palestinian question.
Not on YouTube, I'm not. But the conflict needs to be settled, and there is only one way in which this conflict can be settled.
Of course. Maybe Iran was actually involved. That's a very pro-Palestine sentiment.
Well, I very much so doubt they'd offer up a pro-Israeli opinion, so... Alright, let's see. Now, I will reserve the right to censor certain super chats, bearing in mind, again, today's topic. So, if yours isn't read, presume it was struck with the uncaring censorship hammer of Arch and his continued YouTube existence. See. Nami Kazan says Hezbollah won't interfere as it might create a new civil war in Lebanon and destroy the Lebanese state. They need the cover of the Lebanese state as any IDF attack on them become an attack on the sovereign nation, which is not something the IDF takes easily. Okay, so Hezbollah might not get involved. I do think probably that Hamas's idea here is to try and create some sort of terrorist coalition, essentially. Hoping for a springboard into an Arabic coalition. I'm not sure they will succeed. For the simple reason that the primary... you gotta remember too, ISIS wasn't that long ago. And ISIS sucked up a lot of terrorist manpower in the region. People were flocking to ISIS because they were genuinely the swelling wave, And then Trump went like, no. And yeah, that was pretty much that. They're probably a little bit low on manpower and equipment, honestly. So I don't know if taking on the Israeli Defense Force is really on their immediate schedule. Gunfox donates $5. Thank you very much. To say, okay, the history of this goes back to the Great War, and agreements were made and broken. Well, to cut it short, UK and France cut out a Middle East by snobbish fat asses. Arch, it's a deep, long rabbit hole. Oh yes, it is. I know about this. I've read about this. The entire thing was basically Britain and Western powers going like, well, let's make Israel a thing. And at that time, you gotta remember this was still in the era of colonialism, so to say. So we just did that. That was just something that happened, and nobody really asked the people who lived there how they felt about it. Hell, I doubt the people who made the decision were entirely aware of what a monumentally bad idea this was, considering the religious climate between the two factions.
I have lost shit.
But it's pretty obvious today, if nothing else. Prism Warrior 1 says, Hei, håper du har en flott helg, and what would it take for you to do an ArchCast with Raging Golden Eagle and Kirsche, where you discuss your favorite anime gacha games and your favorite waifus from said anime games, and what you like about said waifus? I don't know. I haven't aired that idea. I might. That sounds like an interesting ArchCast, if nothing else. Let's see. YouTube, I see, is also being a little bit derpy today. Ornu donates $20, thank you very much, and says, reconquer the Outer Realms, reinstate the Crusader Order, re-empower the Inquisition, the only power the Caliphate respects. Is the sword, then, when we've cleansed the New World, we can contemplate the Israel-Palestine question. That one's on the borderline of what I will accept, just by the way. I don't know.
That's the borderline.
That's the borderline. The re-emergence of the Crusader Order. I don't know. Dev, are you in favor of the resurgency of the Crusader Order?
If necessary, I guess.
If necessary. To be fair, Humvees with little black crosses on the side. I don't know. The Hospitaller Black Cross, YouTube, not that one. It could look snazzy. Plus, tactical gear with a bucket helmet. Yeah, I can see it. Full 40k. Honestly, I think the Kirishima idea might be a not terrible one, considering it would be a slightly less serious topic. Gunfox61, I'm sorry, my friend. You've been a member for 7 months. Normally, I'd read whatever you say, but...
Hold on. Write it to me in the link channel. I'm kind of curious what he said.
It's not too spicy. It's just on the border of what I think YouTube will accept, shall we say? Any mentions of making certain areas of the map translucent, I'm probably going to have to crack down on. Trim's Archak says, "Hey son Arch of and Communist Dev. How was your week? Dev?"
It was busy with not a lot to show for it.
See,
unfortunately.
Honestly, this week wasn't going to be that big of a thing. I was going to discuss the enlightening of Ryan Thorson, Ryan Carson, as he's more correctly referred to, I think, and his interaction with the urban youth. But this was slightly larger. Honestly, this was a quiet week until
Well, it wasn't that quiet of a week, Arch. I mean, there's the whole JF Garapy thing.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with entertainment, in my opinion, at least.
Hold on, that's pretty fucking entertaining, Arch.
I don't know.
You gotta admit that's a pretty entertaining story.
I don't know.
Well, no, so basically the Garapy thing happened a day or two ago, and I was already in the middle of writing a different script, so I put that one down, and I started, downloading as many streams about Garapy that I could find, just in case he started scrubbing the internet of them, so I could use them potentially in the future. Yeah, and that took, 6 hours just going through his backlog and finding anything related to the current controversy.
The question. Fire
Chat,
is the answer.
Chat, do you know anything about what happened with Garapy? There was a few things that just kind of, dropped into my lap this week of Deb, you should probably research this right now before something happens. Yeah, JF planted the potato. That's a nice way of saying it. JF planted the potato.
It is a lot of very unproven allegations. Well, that's all I'll comment on the matter. They're okay. I gotta just bring this up real
Okay.
fucking quick though. I suppose the Ryan Carson thing. I'm sure you looked at that too, right?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay.
I was watching the Garapi stuff for the past 2 days.
All right. So as I gotta mention this because this was gonna be the main topic today, honestly, because this is some actual awful shit. Let's see here. This will be a quickie one. Let's see. So the guy was a left-wing activist, and he was stabbed to death on the street by the urban youth. And his girlfriend just stood there watching whilst this was happening.
Heresy's the question.
And that's
Fire
bad
is the
enough.
answer.
That's tragic. Absolutely. It does seem like one's actions coming back to bite one just a little bit. But far worse than this is, did you know that his wife and the dude's friends created a GoFundMe to raise money for them to take a vacation whilst they were grieving?
Yeah, that now that, as soon as you started describing the story, I knew I didn't know the name, but I knew exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, that's fucking wild, man.
Yeah. That is
that fucking story.
that is one of those things where you just look at it and you go like, is there actually no fucking humanity left? Like, seriously.
I have lost shit.
Like, it's just go on.
I had that in my file linked with another story that happened at the same time. Let's see if I can just give me a second here.
It's like, and in case anyone was wondering too, the girlfriend who stood there and didn't call the police or anything, didn't open her phone or shout for help or anything, is a Marxist, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Registered a car, Karl Marx. GoFundMe, $6,000.
Another self-defense type discussion that happened was the YouTube prankster who got shot. Did you see that?
I did, and there's actually been a rise in number of YouTubers being harassed and or / pranked online when they were doing live streams. This seems to have become the thing to do now.
Mm-hmm. Well, basically, this guy, he was a YouTuber trying to prank random people on the street. And he was like running up to this guy in like a mall food court and jumping around, and the guy was like, "Fuck off, leave me alone." And the YouTuber kept like hopping around him and bugging him, so he just turned and shot him in the stomach, like point blank range.
Christ!
He just turned, boom, and then just walked away. And also, he got away with it. The jury let him off on self-defense charges, or on self-defense. And it's like, oh, okay.
I mean. I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on that, but...
You haven't seen it?
No, if he was just acting like a retard, I don't know if you need to shoot him. On the other hand, I've seen some YouTubers doing this kind of stuff, and I don't know. I can also sympathize.
Okay, here. This is actually a safe for work version, I think.
A safe for work version, you think?
Yeah. Because it pauses right before he pulls the trigger.
Let me have a look at it then. I'm gonna
watch it off stream first.
I'm gonna have a quick look at this first, I think, before we show anything else. Okay. Oh, okay. Yep. Jesus, he did just pull that fucker right out of nowhere, didn't he?
Yep. So he was like the YouTuber was coming up to prank him. He wouldn't leave him alone. He just turned around, shot him, and walked away. Didn't give a fuck. He was cold about it.
Jesus. Yeah, I don't know if I consider that self-defense. I'd need to see a little bit more about the circumstance around it, but Jesus.
Well, it's one of those things where, like, if he didn't have that gun, and if the YouTuber was actually like intending to stab him and was using the "it's just a prank, bro" as a way to do it, he could have done it. So it's one of those things where, like, you could put yourself in that guy's headspace, and
That
then
he
maybe
he
understand it.
reasonably feels threatened. Yeah. Yeah.
So this was a story that went viral, and then right
Heresy's
immediately,
the
like
question.
6
Fire
hours
is the
after this or
answer.
something, the story of that guy getting stabbed went viral, and then like 2 days after that, the Garapi stuff went viral, and now this. So it's actually been a pretty heavy news week, I think.
See, I try to keep the ArchCast mostly about immediate entertainment stuff, with the exception of really big shit like a war kicking off, because I'm a military guy and I do like to keep my pulse a little bit on the strategic situation in the world. So I wasn't going to talk about the shooting at all, but I was going to mention the stabbing, in large part also because I don't know if you saw this, but the guy's girlfriend refuses to identify the attacker because she didn't want to stereotype the urban youth.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Oof. Yeah. But it's insane. It's insanity at this point.
Yes. So again, to get back that, so this is the girlfriend, and she didn't want to talk to the police because the only description she could give was essentially, big black man, and she didn't want to do that.
Like, it's at this point where you don't really need to accept the moral condemnation of leftists at this point, because look at their own morality and how they behave.
Yes, they are monsters.
You know
They
what I
are unironic fucking monsters.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
At least people this extreme are, that's for sure.
yeah.
The chat has been asking a bit about the JF Garapi situation. Basically, Garapi's wife went missing about 4 months ago, and during the time in which she went missing, he said that he couldn't stream for 3 days because there was a problem with his stream setup. When he came back, he said that he used the opportunity to like clean his house and make everything all nice and shiny. And then it came out a couple days ago that his wife has been
Heresy's the
missing for
question.
4 months.
Fire is the answer.
And no one can find her. No one knows where she is. And Garapi now claims that she went off to live like this naturalist lifestyle. She had like camping equipment, and she was gonna go off and be like a hitchhiker. I have lost. And he basically just drove her into the middle of nowhere and dumped her off where she wanted to be dumped off. And people are suspecting that he killed her. There's no proof. There's no proof of this.
I have lost.
It's June instead of July. Okay, it was June, but nonetheless, people are suspecting that he killed her and dumped her somewhere, or something happened, right? And he went on the Crucible, I think yesterday, to give an interview, and he doesn't look good. It's one of those things where there's no evidence right now, but if you look at how he talks about her, if you look at how he
Heresy's the
acts,
question.
if you
Fire is the
examine the
answer.
things that he says and his body language, he looks like somebody who killed her. So that is a story that has unfolded over the past 48 hours or so. And I spent a good chunk of time yesterday just downloading a bunch of his old streams in case like he starts wiping his YouTube presence or his like BitChute presence or whatever it is, because I think this is a story that's going to develop over the next couple of months.
Sounds like somebody should maybe delete their videos. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
See, I didn't pay attention to that at all. I'm mostly just the urban youth assault incident, because it demonstrates just how unbelievably bad people they are. Like, it is unbelievable. Like, nobody would normally even think of, like, okay, my friend died. Let's start a GoFundMe so I can go for a vacation in Warren. Like, the mindset. The fucking mindset.
Yeah. It's there's some real disgusting people on the left, that's for sure.
No goddamn doubt about that. Right, continuing on. Honky Kong says, Team Palestine, let's go. Okay, we have somebody who's pro-Palestine here.
Okay.
Zonta says, people are shocked the Iron Dome failed. It barely held when 2,500 rockets were fired in 14 days. Twice that when fired in 14 hours. Of course it failed. I haven't seen that many people going about the Iron Dome, but the Iron Dome is not designed for shit like this, frankly. It's designed to shoot down individual stuff, like small-scale launchers, or large-scale stuff like Scud missiles, like IRBMs, more correctly. That kind of stuff. But against 5,000 dumbfire missiles? Yeah, nah. It's not going to hold.
Heresy's the question.
Nothing's going to hold against that. That's just 5,000 pieces of metal raining from the fucking sky.
I'll be back in a second.
Okay. Alex Hoffman says, who, I'm presuming, do you think would win in a all-out war? Israel, no doubt. I would be shocked and surprised if Hamas had figured out a way to defeat the Israeli army. Even if they have the defender's advantage in urban terrain, because this is exactly the sort of scenario that Israel has been, training for the last, almost 100 years now. They've got the experience. The Commander 248 says, one of the most ridiculous pieces of propaganda is Hamas terrorists sparing a mother and child, saying they aren't evil like the IDF after their rockets hit mostly civilian targets. Well, this is an optics war as much as it is anything else. This is going to be two sides trying to present as sympathetic a point of view towards themselves as possible, as both of these sides rely on a great deal of outside either backing monetarily or approval, as with Israel and the US, for example. Like, Israel can't really do anything without the US giving at least a little nod in their direction. That's why they were surprised on Yom Kippur, for example, because the Americans were like, do not launch a preemptive attack. If you do, we're not going to give you anything. Paul Damack says, hey people, this is a podcast with a governmental apologist, a communist shill, he who won't mind populating the gulag, and my favorite Sargon adjacent person, Arch. Thank you. I am indeed Sargon adjacent. And I haven't been cancelled for it yet, which is nice. Mark Shame says, hey, the Brotherhood of Nod GLA didn't have motorized hang gliders. We need to have a mod that into Command and Conquer. Yeah, the hang glide, that fucking hang glide, like, it doesn't even make tactical sense. Like, okay, so you got a dude with a hang glider. Great. Like, what's he gonna do? Like, just fly over the border by himself and be like, hi, I'm the invading army. I guess you could have multiple dudes with hang gliders, but I don't know. That seemed like a particularly unique approach, perhaps. I have seen articles describing the assault on Israel as, what was it? From the air, land, and sea. I'm like, from the air. When did Palestine develop an air force? Well, hang gliders. Well, there's theoretically correct. That is an attack from the air, so fair enough.
Yeah, it really just seems like they were using whatever it is that they could use. Like, oh, we have some hang gliders. Use those. Use those in the assault. Why not?
Yep. Somebody had a clever idea. Like, I think maybe we could use hang gliders. Brilliant. Do it.
Yeah. My brother has like 5 or 10 of them lying around.
Yep.
Who wants to get on?
Max Swordsman said they killed about 600 people at a music festival and took about 50 hostages. So yeah, that is the higher end of the estimate I have heard. Not confirmed, but yes, the hostages too are going to be a big deal because, well, Hamas might try to use those as human shields, and they might also try to use them for clout. Many of these terrorist organizations will literally trade hostages amongst each other, and 50-odd Israeli hostages would go at a premium. Oliver Nord says, for Ukraine footage, you could demonetized for showing footage of any weapons being used on screen. Don't know if this could trigger the yeet hammer. You never know what can trigger the yeet hammer. Like, I've seen fully monetized YouTube clips of, like, Russian soldiers being shot and killed in ambushes. So, who the fuck knows? Matthew says, have you considered the Psalm 83 war? I'm guessing that's a veiled reference to something pretty biblical. Paul Damek says, hey people, sadly, Dev is not muted, but every time he opens his mouth, you can see the wheel turning. The hamster is dead. I don't know, Chad has been agreeing with Dev a lot today.
There's been some disagreement. There's been a lot of isolationists in there who don't agree with my take.
I've even seen the occasional Dev-based in chat today.
I'll win chat over eventually. Unless those are my viewers, because my viewers also tune into your show, I've noticed.
WMC Wolverine says, greetings and hail Arch, our Lord and Savior. I'm returning home from Cuidad, Victoria, for a wedding and decide to pay a visit to Monterey for their gentleman massage parlor. Passport bros for the win. Ah, gentlemen's massage parlors. Well, I hope you enjoy the wedding. And on a completely unrelated note, do you remember this drama, Dev, that came out years ago when Sargon managed to mention on a stream that he went to a massage parlor in the little town he lived in?
Mm-hmm. I do recall.
Yeah.
And everyone thought that it was
an exotic massage parlor, yeah. That was pretty funny. That was pretty funny. The best part, too, was Sargon's just complete innocent reaction. Like, no, not that kind of massage. Are those even possible? Like, yes. Oh, poor Sargon.
So, here's kind of what I mean. So this guy says, Arch, you're telling hard truths, so you will get banned. Except Dev, who might say Israel is bad later, if told to. Who is telling me to give these takes? I've seen a lot of people be like, Dev has controlled opposition. He's just taking money to give. Like, okay, first of all, where's the money? Because I'd like it if I'm going to be doing this. Where's the payout? Secondly, though, like who am I apparently bought? Like who bought me, guys? What do you mean?
My money is on the WEF.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Mitchell says Cypher's Kane is also looking to go to go to Israel. JD, it looks like a coordinated attack. IDF were blindsided and caught off guard, and Hamas and company have got a lot of smuggled NATO equipment. Really now? I haven't seen any clear indicators of that as of yet, mind you, but that would certainly be very interesting if that's the case, because the only place I can imagine they would get that from is via Russia, via Ukraine. That might be spicy. Mark James says, if captured US hardware gets used against Israel, then we know the withdrawal went just as planned. The long Biden plan to invade Israel with US military hardware. It's a pretty good idea, actually. Mark James says, gentle throw, keep up the great work, Arch. Also, stay rad, Dev. See, someone likes Dev.
Some people do.
Some
people. It's too bad V isn't here. I was going to fight with him. I was going to brawl with V on your show again.
I don't know. I don't think V would take up the pro-Palestinian position.
Yeah, I don't think he would either. No, he did a video today saying that SFO doesn't understand government corruption or something. And I was like, God damn it, V. I mean, lots of people are saying like V is turning on Dev. The friendship is over. We talk about this stuff in private. Like we're fine. But it was funny because my argument is basically that like V's argument seems to be that he sees a lot of corruption firsthand in Romania, and now we have reports coming out of Canada and coming out of the US of potentially bad things happening. So it's all the same. Governments all operate the same way, and they're all corrupt. And my view is that, well, Canada and Romania aren't the same place. They have different cultures with different expectations. One is a lower trust society, one is a higher trust society. You can't simply say that all governments are equal levels of corrupt. It doesn't work that way, you know? That's not to say that Canada's innocent. It's clearly not. We have some very serious problems here. But to compare it to an Eastern European country just because they're both governments, I don't think that works. So that was going to be the fight, Arch. But V is not here. V has run away.
The Commander 2 Freight says, imagine if the Merchant of Death is involved. Ooh, that would be spicy. Do you know about do you know about this, Dev?
No. What's up?
So this was a while ago. Victor Bout. Does that name ring any bells?
Nope.
Victor Bout was a very large-scale arms trader of Russian origins, and he was set free in a prisoner exchange last year in return for that what was that basketball chick? I think Brittany Griner, the basketball chick who had been kept in Russia. Brittany Griner. So they traded a enormous arms trader for a women's NBA player, which seemed like a really fucking bad deal at the time.
Well, hold on. If this was a trans woman, she'd actually be much better at basketball.
I don't think she is. Is she? God, no.
Oh, okay.
It's there's a lot of she's here, so maybe she isn't. But yes, if it turns out that Victor Bout was involved in this too, that would be... Oh, we would not be told. Let me put it like that. If Victor Bout was involved in this after the Biden administration let him go free in trade for a fucking female basketball player, we would not be told. Let me put it like that. We would not be told.
Now, this is all news to me. I haven't heard about this story before.
And when we are told, it's going to be in 20 years' time, when everyone involved is dead, and it's going to be in the form of a movie, where we're all going to look at it and just facepalm us like, that's retarded. That could never happen in real life. Sigh, indeed. It would be funny, though. Let's see. Jafar the Blade says, you wouldn't need America if you children in Canada in the EU would act like the adults rather than the parasites and respect freedom rather than waffle between socialism and authoritarianism every other decade. Listen.
Service
We want our
guarantees
healthcare.
citizenship.
Okay, and it's expensive. Somebody's going to have to pay for world peace. We didn't volunteer. Unironically, that is the European view. It's like, if America is going to be like, we want to be the world police, the rest of us are just going to nod and be like, okay. It's going to be really expensive, though. You sure? Yeah. Okay. See, Britain fulfilled that role for quite a while, okay? And Germany tried in a very different way. But the role fell to America, so... Glowy says, considering I haven't heard anything about Israeli air defense working, I think it bores poorly, phrase in my opinion. This means either missiles suck or they are running low, or maybe Ukraine got too much. Gaza will probably be hammered, though. We've seen them doing some strikes, so I think they're probably on the job, so to say. He also says, I'm thinking maybe Hamas was watching Ukraine and will take some inspiration. Maybe they'll use drones. If that happens, the fighting might get really difficult. Also, I'm kind of wondering how the Dems will react. Big pro-Palestine group in the Democrats. Who knows? And they have used drones. We have, in fact, got footage of them using drones, which is why, again, I'm a little bit like maybe this is 4D chess, and maybe they're going to try and draw them in to grind them down in a long-term war. Because they have clearly employed some tactics that they haven't before, but I don't know if I'm overestimating them there.
Well, in terms of the how will the Democrats respond, because there's a bunch of pro-Palestinians in the Democratic Party, I actually don't think that's going to be an issue. Like, I don't think, the squad, like AOC and all the progressive Dems, I don't think they're an issue anymore. They're largely they make a lot of noise. They don't really do anything. You know, like I don't know if you recall, but back when AOC first got elected, she was coming in, with all this fire coming out of her mouth, and she's like, "We're gonna reform the Democrats. We're gonna make everyone socialist. We're gonna make it more fair." It's the end of the business era Dems, and like within 3 weeks, Nancy Pelosi had her whipped. You know, and she was like, "All right, yes, Massa, I will vote exactly how you want me to vote in Congress." So I actually don't think the progressive Dems are that big of a deal right now.
Perhaps. JD says, IDF, Israel Defense Force, also lacks experience in actual warfare, not insurgency. I don't think this is going to be a war, though. I think this is going to be an insurgency operation, first and foremost. Josh Leak, I guess Israel was getting jealous of all the money Ukraine was getting. Who will the US fund more now? Whoever can is launder money better.
Oh, okay.
Who knows? We'll see. I mean, I think the US response is simply going to be, let's pay both of them all of our money, because that seems to be the US response.
Mm-hmm. Here, let's answer this one next, because I'll probably be gone by the time you get to it.
Mm-hmm.
PBR Street Gang for $10. Canada is the worst of all. Hell, they are regulating podcasts, and you can get put in jail as a stand-up comedy act. Canada is right up there with Russia. Listen, Canada has some serious problems right now, all right? There's a bunch of things happening here that I think are absolutely terrible. We are currently going down a very dark path here in Canada. But to say that Canada right now, with all of its problems, is as bad as Russia, I don't think so. Doesn't mean that we're good. There's lots of work to do here. Things are going very badly under Trudeau. But as bad as Russia, no, I don't think so.
Soon, Dev. Soon.
Maybe. If Trudeau actually rigged the next election, then maybe we'd actually be as worse as Russia. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Mitch L. says we need to stop any and all aid to the PLO and Gaza. Yes. Israel's been championing for this for ages, and honestly, the entire idea of starving out the Gaza Strip, it is inhumane, and I honestly, it would simply be better to deal with it militarily, in my opinion, rather than starve God only knows how many people to the brink of death. But at least it would have brought an end to the conflict. But no, we had to drag this out for another 10 fucking years. The new IKB4472 says, if Israel can take and hold Gaza without breaking the rules too badly, then they should keep it. I agree. JD, based on reports, take with a pinch of salt, IDF lost 5 to 8 tanks, 2 to 3 heavy IFVs, 10 to 13 wheeled AFVs, 2 to 4 MRAPs, and 12 to 16 APCs. Taking a bloody nose if true. Yes. The highest I've seen is 14 vehicles, so I don't know. I'm expecting both sides to overstate and understate any potential casualties, just like the war in Ukraine. Oliver Nord says Korea must pray every night that Rocket Man never grows such titanic balls and or taste for kamikaze martyr conflicts. Asia would become a lot more lively. Oh god, yes it would. It's like, I swear to god, when Kim Jong-un or whatever starts getting old, we best hope he has a lot of children, because if he doesn't... Trims Arshak says, lurer på hvordan dette påvirker Ukraina-krigen. That means, I wonder how this is going to affect the war in Ukraine. I think it's probably going to see a reduction in aid to Ukraine. I think so. But I think both sides are so exhausted over there right now that it's not necessarily going to really change much, really. I think the forever war shall simply remain the forever war.
Well, didn't America already give Ukraine a whole bunch of stuff just recently? So they got to work through their current stockpile first, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. So if people are saying that Russia's better than Canada, listen, all right? My neighbor has a giant fuck Trudeau sign on his truck, and he's had it on his truck for like 2 years, and he has not been pulled over and executed by the government. If it was Russia and you had a fuck Putin sign, it would be a different story, okay? No. For as much evil as Canada is right now, and there's a lot of it, it is not as bad as Russia.
The Grizzling says, Reckless, I'm presuming. Government spending is what caused the first Great Depression. As an American, the government's plan is to starve out the middle class and make us serfs to the government. Maybe. It kind of does look like it. The whole Slender says, as an American, the best thing we could do is make every pally to eat pork before popping them. Every pally to eat pork before popping them. What?
By pally, he means packy, I think.
Ah. Thank you for pointing that out, Dev. And having a slur on my channel. Thank you, Dev.
Is that a slur?
I think so.
Is it just a short form for Pakistani?
Yeah, so is Jap. That's not loud either.
Oh, you said it too. I guess we're even.
Why You Hatin' says, God is watching the war and he's facepalming. My chosen people. Well, I'm sure they'll come back. Samuel Tula, at this point, after all those videos I've seen today of the non-friendly stuff, just end it. Let Israel do the barbarians what the Romans did to theirs. Just translucent them and end this crap.
Well, I mean, it's up to them, I guess.
Again, like...
If America basically said, okay, listen, we're going to look away for 5 minutes, what do you think Israel would actually do?
Well, I think, as I've stated on multiple occasions, if the world would just agree to look away from the Middle East for a couple of years, we'd look back and find a very nice, stable, pretty nation filled exclusively with white people called Greater Israel.
Hold on. Right-wingers don't think that Jews are white, though.
Well, neither do the Jews, really, necessarily, but I do. I have unilaterally included them.
They're white enough, to be honest. They're white enough.
Ironically, like, seriously, Israel's, for all of its faults, is a relatively nice nation in a relatively bad neighborhood, shall we say. I'd be quite happy for them to call the shots.
Yep. There's a few reasons as to why in a complete area of the world full of shitholes and nothing but shitholes, you have one, liberal capitalist democracy that's actually has like a decent standard of living. And it's like, it actually has like real economic innovation, real freedom for its citizens. There's one nice place to live. All right.
I'm gonna look. I'm looking through my all the things I've got pulled up, but there's like a picture of downtown Israel. All right. Okay. So here you go. Right, downtown Israel. I'll put it in the link chat. That's a pretty nice place, honestly. That's not bad. You've got lots of nice little houses.
Fire notwithstanding.
Fire notwithstanding, yes. But, like, that is not bad. Like, nicely sized houses. Everyone's got a little yard. Everyone's got their own car. The streets are nice and clean. You've got palm leaves. You've got greenery in the little roundabout there, etc. This is not a terrible place to live at all. And then you've got their neighbors who live in nothing but rickety-ass high-rises from which missiles occasionally fire.
Yeah.
It's like, if we gotta pick one of the two, I'll pick the nice little tidy white houses, honestly.
Yep.
The fire makes it
like,
cozy, shit.
Would you rather live in North or South Korea?
Yeah.
Pick one.
The fire of peace. Mostly peaceful. What's a nice place? Yes, chat. King Richard the Lionheart of England says, seriously, Christian Israel will solve these problems. Come on. Time for the Ninth Crusade. Who knows? Max Saltman says, you say this is a new kind of war, but this was more like the kind waged in the ancient era by the Assyrians. Hiccups. A new kind of modern war, then. Let me qualify my statement.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we've seen some hints of that in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, too.
We have, but there's still the pretense of civility.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Yeah. So I recall, I forget who it was. I saw an interview. I forget who it was with. It was with somebody who's been doing a lot of writing on Russia recently. But basically, his view is that like the Russians, not average Russian people, but like, let's see, people in the government in Russia, they view they genuinely believe that the average Ukrainian wants to be part of Russia and views themselves as Russians, but it's like it's the elites of the Ukrainian government that are oppressing them, right? So they're like, okay, here's the plan. We'll go in, we'll kill the elites, and then the rest of them will join us. And they'll join us willingly because we've liberated them. And then it turns out that they went in, they killed some of the elites, at least in the places that they actually managed to conquer. And they realized, oh, actually, it's more than just the government. There's actually like intellectuals here and other people who still want to be Ukrainian. So if we just kill them, then the rest of them will want to be Ukrainians too. And then they realized, oh, there's actually like a lot of the middle class wants to be Ukrainian. So if you just kill them, and eventually you get to the point where you're just killing all of them.
Uh-huh.
And that was kind of his analysis of the situation, is that like a lot of Russians have
Heresy's
deluded
the
themselves
question.
into believing
Fire
that
is
they're
the
liberating these people
answer.
when they're not.
But at least they went through the steps rather than this, which was just like, yeah, we don't care about them joining us.
Yeah, we just want to kill them. Yeah, that's where the Palestinians are. Yeah.
Hamas is not like, oh, our Israeli brothers will join us. The new IKB 4472 says, make Gaza look like Dresden. That might be the result. And remember, Dresden wasn't a war crime, so... Zedekiah says, why are Muslims so shameless? Well, it's because... It's not even Muslim, necessarily. It's the culture. Like, when people call these Hamas barbarians... It is a downput. It's like barbarian. It's a negative sounding word, but they are. They unironically are. These are barbarians. They're different. Their standards compared to ours are very different. Very different. Like, that is what allows them to load the corpse of a woman they've recently raped onto the back of a pickup truck and parade her through the streets expecting applause. Like, this is not the Western world.
Yep. I mean, I know that liberals, more left-leaning people don't like to hear this, but not all people are the same. That's just how it is. All right, it's not genetics, but there is huge cultural differences, huge moral differences. Not all people are the same, and what works in the West does not work in other places.
Yep. And we'll skip a little bit there, as Mr. Luckless donates 500 yen, thank you very much, to give us all a brief interjection in the horror by saying, morning, Arch, here's an oldie but a goodie. What do you call a gainfully employed lobster? A jobster. And then everyone looks to Japan, and everyone agrees that they're the real enemy.
It's time to nuke them again.
Yep, still in the solution.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Thank you for the interjection of humor, sir. Even if it is cringe as fuck. Ben says, if America's neighbors treated it as badly as Israel did, then Canada would be at next. Mexico would have another half bitten out of it, and any equal of Palestine would be a burning crater. Oh, I don't know about that. Mexico treats America pretty badly, but not with outright missile strikes, I will admit. Just, drugs and tens of thousands of fresh new citizens every day.
You know what? I wouldn't mind being annexed by America because the American Constitution's way better than the Canadian one.
That's true.
Service
Eyal
guarantees
Oberstein,
citizenship.
Hamas was democratically elected, so it means that everyone in Gaza is a military target. The logic returns to haunt Hamas, I guess. Phantom Lord DJ07 says, Arch, the M113 is an APC from the Vietnam War and was replaced by the Bradley IFV. I know that, you little bitch. Come here. I'm never going to hear this down. I'm like, oh yes, Hamas said they captured tanks. We see M113s, tanks. Now my community is going to be like, I just know the difference between an APC and a tank. William Soward says, turn Israel into Cadia. Yes, unironically, yes. Fortify every street corner. That pretty little roundabout, just put a machine gun nest there instead. It'd be far more decorative and safe. Mike James says, all Daddy America is too weak to do anything. Oh, possibly. Star Phoenix, Middle East mod for asleep, post-war crimes. They certainly are. Zedkai says, this is the kind of thing free Palestine schmucks defend. They do, apparently, which is, again, I would consider this to be indefensible ground myself, but there you go.
Actually, going back a couple of super chats there, wasn't there a country in South America that had like the cartel problems? It wasn't Mexico, it was a different one. Had drug cartel problems like crazy. And the government was just like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to suspend civil liberties. We're just going to move the army in and we're just going to clear them out. And they did that, and now, despite them suspending civil liberties, because the government isn't actually turning on its own citizens just indiscriminately, society actually functions again.
Yes, that is El Salvador, and El Salvador has gone hard on these fuckers, and I applaud it every step of the way. There's tons of images from this where there are thousands of gang members, busload upon busload upon busload of gang members. Who are paraded around in their underwear. They are treated very harshly. They are looked over by guards armed, not with sticks or anything, but with fucking assault rifles and shit. And they have, as you said, they have just suspended habeas corpus. They're just like, okay, you have a gang tattoo, you go to jail. Fuck you. Nice and simple. And you know what? It's working. They have the highest murder rate in the world. Straight up. This needed a solution, and the only solution possible, due to rampant corruption, was to go hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's working.
I know there's a lot of people on the left who are like clutching their pearls over this, like, oh, how could you do this? Oh my god. Well, they're fighting an enemy that does not care for the rules.
Yep.
Right? And to their credit, they have shown that they're not turning their lack of rules against people who aren't part of the gangs. That's kind of the fear, right? Is like, oh, we're going to give the government overwhelming powers to deal with a crisis. Well, what happens when they turn that power on you when you haven't done anything? That's a reasonable fear to have, right? But so far they haven't, and so far it's working.
Yep. And you do indeed have the opponents of the West, like Al Jazeera, going, oh my god, they're arresting criminals. Could this spread to other South American nations? I fucking hope so.
Yep. I would like it to spread to here, too.
Are you sure? Bear in mind who's in charge of your government, Dev.
No, I know what you mean. But, like, guess what just got passed here in British Columbia, Arch?
What?
In Canada. They finally made it illegal to use drugs outdoors.
Okay.
And people are saying, oh my god, this is such an infringement on our civil liberties. We can't shoot heroin up in the streets anymore. Like, all the leftists are screaming about harm reduction and how it's a victimless crime and all this shit. And I'm just like, please, God, just clear them out. Just collect all the druggies downtown and put them into a fucking hole. Because, Christ, I don't want to live in a society like that anymore.
Yep, I can see it.
Service
Now, bearing in mind
citizenship.
that it's still very early, like it's entire because the guy Nayib Bukele, the El Salvador president, is incredibly popular after this. Incredibly popular. The populace love him because he is actually bringing them security. But there is the old saying, "He who gives up liberty for safety." You know, maybe this is just a great guy. And maybe he'll wrap up the gangs, and then he'll step down and be like, my job is done. And he'll be a fucking folk hero in El Salvador forever. Or maybe he looks at all of his power and thinks, isn't this fun?
Yeah, because lots of people, they don't become George Washington, right? They don't,
Yes.
Washington refused to be a king. They
Very
wanted to make him a
few
king, and
people
he's like,
become George Washington.
yeah.
But,
Heresy's the question.
for
Fire is
El
the
Salvador
answer.
and South America's sake, I hope this will become the South American George Washington. I hope he refuses the crown, even as it is pushed upon him. Let's see. Obdulio says, have you ever seen Event Horizon? What do you think of the idea that it is an unofficial 40k prequel? Any chance for a video about the film? I have seen it. It's too scary for a little vagina like myself. And it certainly does have overt chaos elements. So maybe. At the very least, I think it was a bit of an homage, if nothing else, I would say. Glowy says, the longer the fighting in Gaza drags out, the more precarious Israel's position will be. I know of a neighbor to the north of them that is an ally of Iran and really dislikes Israel for bombing them. If they join, this mess will be a proper clusterfuck. Yeah, absolutely. There is a serious danger that Israel's enemies will see this as an excellent opportunity to get a bit of revenge for a multitude of humiliations suffered over the years. Mark James says, corn cares not from whence the blood flows. That is true. Ikik Rat, the Turkish attack happened before cause the Kurdish Workers' Party bombed Ankara. Okay. So that was just Turks being Turks. Nice to know.
Heresy's the question. Fire is the answer.
You'll send it. Says, what's Dev's opinion on the Alex Jones case? Dev. Munching sounds in the background. Eating sounds intensifies. Swallowing, gulping intensifies. As he tries to clear his throat to speak, maybe.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Nope. Dev has no opinions. Whatsoever.
Hold on, I'm back. I'm back. Sorry. No, I was getting my own stream ready since that's happening after this. Alex Jones, right? I assume you're talking about Alex Jones getting hit with like $1 billion he has to pay back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did end up being guilty of the crime, but that's a very high price to pay, isn't it?
I would say it was cruel and unusual punishment, actually, Dev.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I don't know what would have been the appropriate punishment for what he was slapped with, but I feel like that's way too much.
Yes.
That's a ridiculous amount of money.
Even assuming he's guilty, etc. Okay, fair enough. $1.5 billion is still cruel and unusual punishment, and I do believe that there is some sort of protection in the U.S. legal system against that. But oh well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone in the chat says the sentence is obviously an example to anyone else who questions narratives. No, I don't think so. I think what that is the fact that he was asked multiple times to stop, and he just kept disregarding legal complaints against him, and it's like, well, it's one of those things where, you know, if you don't know you're saying something
Heresy's the
false,
question.
there's generally
Fire is the
decent
answer.
protections in the law in the United States for that, right? It's like, oh, I didn't know, sorry, but. You know, Alex Jones, this is about the Sandy Hook thing, right? Like, he was informed multiple times, many times, like, listen, you know that what you're saying is fake. You need to stop saying it. And, well, you can only run so many times into a brick wall until you basically break against it.
And Mondoria says, hope you have a happy Thanksgiving, Dev.
It is Thanksgiving in a couple days, actually, yeah, on Monday.
Go. Grey Matter says, no, Arch, Americans have been well aware that the government spends too much money for the last 100 years. Biden is just trying to crash everything before he gets back in. Maybe. I wonder if Trump gets back in. I hope so, but we'll see. Ikik Rat says, by the way, did anyone notice what Azerbaijan did? No. Did Azerbaijan do something? I know they're bombing like Georgia again, but that happened a while ago. I think. Or Armenia, that was it, yeah. No, I haven't seen anything immediately in the news, and I couldn't find anything immediately searching it either, but I know they're having a little bit of a bomb-off over there again, too. The whole sentence says, I'm not sure I know a single pro-Israel person, IRL. Really? Huh.
Really? I'm surprised, to be honest.
Me too. K Canada says, I very much feel like this is Hamas's final Hail Mary. The Devian idea. Very possible.
It is one of those things, right, where it seems like they might be running out of resources, so maybe this is their final lash out before they just collapse.
Oh, go for it. Samuel Tulip says, their plan is stupid. Commit as atrocious crap as possible so that Israel comes down on them so hard the rest of the Arabs will try to destroy Israel again, and this time it will be different. Yeah. Oh, they'll probably use it. They'll use the retaliations, and they'll be like, look at us, we are poor Palestinians.
I have lost. Shit.
We didn't do nothing. I don't know if people will buy it, though. Again, this is the era of the cell phone, and there's far too much evidence of their actions. The Real Holsteiner says, Devs takes on war, based as fuck. Annihilate your enemies. Yes.
Yes. If you like, you shouldn't fight, but if you have to fight, then you should fight to win.
Mm-hmm.
War should be either 0 or 100 with no in between.
I have lost. Shit.
John Rodriguez does point out, however, that winning wars does not allow the continuing production of weapons, which is true. That is the unfortunate side effect of winning a war.
I have lost.
Economic downturns. Antelope the Greek says, I'll choose NATO, I'm presuming, over the Sand People any day. See, that's about the interesting thing too.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Is Israel a member of NATO? I think they are, aren't they?
I don't think they are. Nope. Just like Japan isn't, even though Japan's like, roughly affiliated with them. No, NATO is not a member of Israel.
NATO is not a member of Israel.
Sorry, other way around. Israel isn't a member of NATO. Yeah.
I guess they aren't, even if they are like our dudes. They should. That way everyone could help them. Adria Holznader says,
right.
I'm old enough to remember when lesbians existed. Ah, yes, that's true, because they're not lesbians anymore, they're queer.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. I wanted to refresh my memory, so I quickly looked this up. Yeah, so back in 2012, Alex Jones said about the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting that it was a false flag operation perpetuated by the gun control advocates. No one died. None of the kids actually died in that shooting. The whole thing was staged. It was manufactured. It was all done with actors, and that's where all the footage of it comes from. And basically, for years, he just kept doubling down on that position, and he refused to back down from it. So everyone involved in that shooting successfully hit him with a defamation suit, and that's like hundreds of people, thousands of people, which is why it got so high. That combined with his reach, it was just basically like multiplicative. So it seems like Alex Jones basically retarded himself into bankruptcy.
Ikigrat expands upon the Azerbaijan thing by saying Azerbaijan basically marched into a separatist Armenian state that isn't recognized and all. 120,000 Armenians who live there fled to Armenia. Well, that's separatist Armenian state. Well, at least they didn't invade anybody, so, that's good. Antelope the Greek says, I'm installing my own Iron Dome system to my home. A wise precaution, sir. 47 Arbuck says, I think becoming the world hegemon has been the worst thing to happen to America in her history, but there's really no better alternative. If the bloody Brits hadn't abandoned their empire, though, we wouldn't be needed. We could have had the weight be placed on Britain instead, but we can't. And so it is America's job to protect us all from the Chinese. McQuarrie11 says, oh, you're still covering the Misdirection War? I wonder, is it the 5th this year? I mean, see, rather than all of this being like Misdirections War, I simply think this is a sign of the fact that everything is getting a little bit worse. Simply as, like, it's not a single thing. It is an amalgamation of a million micro factors that all combines to make the world a little shittier. Because we have had, like, 30, 40 years of just fucking paradise. Like, everything has been so fucking great. Like, we have never lived better lives than we did in, like, the roundabout 2000s, very late 1900s, etc. And so eventually it had to come to a fucking end, and here we are.
Yep. Well, it didn't have to come to an end. George Bush could have chosen not to send a bunch of jobs to China. That might have fixed a lot of this.
Might have helped.
I know, like, back in the 2000s, basically, I remember the situation is that there was realist politics with the Soviet Union. Uh, Reagan comes in. Reagan doesn't give a shit. He says, no, we should actively put forward our morality into the world and not just, try to appease the Soviet Union to prevent war. And then during Reagan's tenure or shortly after it, I forget which, the Soviet Union collapses. So the neocons, now the neocons aren't in power, not really, until after Bill Clinton. So the neocons believed, hey, maybe we should just like be outwardly and forcefully pro-American, and that's what we'll do. And people will just like want to be like us by trading with us and absorbing our culture. And of course, that led to the disaster in the Iraq War, right? But basically, the neocons believed, and also the neolibs to an extent, they believed that we can make more Western, liberal, capitalist, democratic countries by trading with them. So that's what their plan was for China, right? And that's what Europe's plan was for Russia.
I have
trade
lost.
with them, show them the benefits of being economically liberal, and then the political freedoms will follow. Turned out that was completely fucking false. It didn't work. And that has been probably the biggest blunder the West has just walked into in probably since World War II. I think it's probably worse than Vietnam, to be honest.
Thinking everybody's like us. Yep.
Because now we're in a position where all of our enemies hold all the economic chips. It's like, well, good job, guys. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
It is a kind of the fable of the frog and the scorpion, where we're like, hey, I can show you a better way. And they're like, really? Yeah, here, just have lots of money. Now, institute democracy? No. But I gave you lots of money.
Guarantees citizenship.
What?
Yeah.
What? Here we are. Sven Hallgren says they should at least have 2 nukes. One on account of being diplomats, one shot for your enemy, and sometimes it is best to not be taken alive. One for them, one for yourself. A wise precaution. Antelope the Greek says legalize nuclear bombs. Nuking will be legal worldwide. I think that might be dangerous. Possibly.
It's time for me to go. I'll see you later, Arch. Have fun with Superchats.
Lazy little dev.
Thanks for tolerating yet another dev show, chat. You know I love you.
CT Thomas, a shame chlorine is a war crime. It is. McQuan11, nope, just use napalm, lots of it, urbanized, good. Well, it's concrete buildings. They'd have to use a lot. I don't think we have enough production to keep that going, actually. Sephirius, Israel will have no choice but to go scorched earth and look to their borders for their fallout. I'm pretty sure Israel knows war was coming one way or another. Possibly. I think they probably had gotten a little bit, peace drunk, as most nations eventually do when they've been at peace for an extended period of time. They begin to think that it ain't going to happen again, and then it happens. Again. Sadwings Raging says, old enough to remember all the leftist waving Palestinian flags. Killdozer Brigade, the entire strip. Flat, like a pancake. So beautiful. Glistening in the sun. McWall11 says, crispy critters, Arab edition. Oh, crispy critters. See, that game wasn't that bad. It was just a little, ambitious. Zenothium15 says, I hear Lord Commander Julka will lead Israel. That sounds like bad news. Ben says, chemical weapons in Gaza Strip is what scares me. Well, they've been keeping pretty good control of it. I doubt there's too much of it. There might be. That would be interesting, but we'll see. Michael VPS says, time to put on Counter-Strike by Sabaton. Sabaton is a good band. I forgive them hiccup for being Swedish. Chuckle Seduce says, honestly, I think Hamas did this believing that Israel wouldn't respond or it would be a mild response. I honestly think that they thought a declaration of war would never happen. Possibly. McWall11 says, wonder if Starlink will be sent to Palestine or Israel. Or would missionary be a recoverable position? I don't know. But I don't think Starlink is going to be sent to Palestine or Israel. I consider it unlikely. 47 Albuk says, to clarify, I don't want America to abandon her empire now that we have it. I'm merely lamenting the fact that we can no longer be isolationist because we have no allied empire. Yep. You placed yourself in a position with responsibilities, and now you're going to have to deal with it.
Fire is the answer.
And then my friend who says nuke both parties and the problem is solved. I mean, supposedly, but it's a bit harsh. But yet another WW World War situation that has started under the unwatching eye of the corpse. What a fun timeline. How much of my money will go to Israel now? A lot. A frightening quantity. A genuinely frightening quantity. Toxic Waste says current numbers 300 killed, 1,590 wounded. Jesus. That is one hell of a... What's the Russian term? Military operation? McWell11 says, did Kanye West really try to trademark years? I have no fucking clue. Why are you asking me? Ethan Rogers, I've heard some stuff about Israel doing similar village eradication stuff in the past. Not sure how true that is, though. Zoom Brain Presses X. They have destroyed settlements, absolutely, to clear way for Israeli settlements, like bulldoze them and stuff, but I haven't heard anything about them going house to house shooting people, so... Pleb of Reason says not taking back Constantinople has been a mistake. Yes, it has, no doubt about it. McWile11 says, it's just a prank stabbing, bro. Boom.
Service
Solved.
guarantees citizenship.
Yeah, like, I get it. I get the argument. Like, the guy goes, like, I feel threatened. I told him to fuck off. He refused. He kept having his camera in my face. There were two of them. But even so, it's like, shooting the guy? Like, shoot him in the dick, at least. You know, give him a chance. Not straight in the guts. Just point it towards his crotch and pull the trigger. He'll never forget. Ala Mondoria says, okay, no, Dev, you left out a lot. Arch, listen to Tim Spool's recounting of events, get the full story. Dev, you're evil. Well, it doesn't surprise me. Magic French Fry says, mind doing a small context bit on Hamas for us who don't know much about them? Right, so super simple, right, on Hamas. They are, well, they started out as a straight-up terrorist organization, a breakaway from the Brotherhood of Islam or something like that, I think, which had a lot of power in Egypt at the time. And they were, in essence, a sort of militarized militia-style grouping. Over the years, however, they have transformed quite a lot. To the point where today, they are the essential legitimate government of Gaza, where I think they have absolute, complete control. They are also the majority government in Palestine. So, in essence, they are the Palestinian government. They've turned the entirety of Palestine into a bit of a terrorist state, really. But they're not officially recognized as such, as they are, technically, theoretically, the elected government of Gaza and Palestine. But they came about from a terrorist organization. They are very, very Islamic. They are fervently anti-Zionist, and not in the Western sense, like, haha, you reposted Pepe the Frog, as in the, let's eradicate them all from the face of the earth, and Hitler was right. That kind of anti-Zionist. So, they're quite spicy. Quite spicy. But they are also technically legitimate. Walter Fight says, Dev is missing a lot of important details on the prankster thing. The prankster was not alone, and the guy was a deliverman. A lot of deliverman has been attacked lately. Okay. Now, that is extenuating circumstance, though, because I did see there were two people there. And if he's in an area where a lot of people like him have been attacked, I can see him, like, kind of panicking, but then he apparently he was very cold about it too, though, so I don't know. Settlers says, Yo, Watch, does anyone know what is happening in Armenia? It's all 1915 again. In Armenia.
Heresy's the question.
Right, so that's the Azerbaijan
Fire is
thing.
the answer.
No, honestly, I have not paid enough attention to it, because, well, the Israeli conflict, that's relevant because I know something about it. Azerbaijan, Armenia, I haven't the faintest clue. Like, they are two nations that seem to constantly be at war, but they're both so small and so insignificant that nobody cares. Like, they could probably carry out a full-scale ethnic cleansing over there, and we'd find out 100 years later, and we'd be like,
I have
wow,
lost.
how didn't we know? And they'll just be like, bro, you never asked. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu assalam, says Kraus. Brother Arch, I for one don't have a side in this,
Fire
since
is the
on one
answer.
side is Israel, and the other, to put it lightly, are Kafir. Also, Brother Dev, I heard the forest was on fire again in Canada, so I pray for your safety. Masalam. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for praying that Dev doesn't burn alive in his house. That's nice too. Mark James, Gravity Industries is working on jetpack troopers. Why the hell not? I have seen that there has been several attempts, actually, or trials in with the U.S. Army, trying to get jetpacks for stuff like boarding actions for ship to ship, for example, or even just for logistical tasks. As it would unironically be a lot easier if you could have a jetpack dude just fly from one ship to another when you're doing stuff like at-sea refueling operations, for example. So, hopefully, we'll get jetpacks soon. No one says Germany gave humanitarian aid to Palestine in 2022. Not a good look now. No, it isn't. McWilliam says, at Dev, do you agree with your government? Praise the Schnazi? I'm sure Dev would not agree with that, at least. I hope so. The Command to Freight, don't forget that there's 2 battalions of Chechens fighting for the Ukrainians. One is of the religious extremist variant. It wouldn't be too surprising if they were shipping weapons to Palestine. That's a good point too. Yes, there are certain elements on the Ukrainian side that are of the Muslim persuasion, of the rather extreme persuasion. So it wouldn't be beyond the pale for them to send some toys off to their buddies. PBL Street Gang says, Canada is the worst of all. Hell, they are regulating podcasts you can go put in jail as a stand-up comedian act. Canada is right up there with Russia. That's the one Dev did respond to. And Canada certainly is getting rid of a lot of its freedoms rather quickly, isn't it? President Warwick, can you contact RG and Kirsche and ask them if they would like to do an ArchCast like the one I suggested? Also, I hope you bring Kirsche for more Arch podcasts. I really enjoy your last ArchCast with her. You guys had a really good flow. We did. That was funny. Maybe.
I have lost. Shit.
Glowy says, Canada, Russia, they look the same. Both have heirs of a communist as leadership. Both the leaders have apologists. Both arrest people for going against the party line. Russia and Canada are really
Service
corrupt,
guaranteed
but in different ways.
citizenship.
Canada more CCP corrupt than Russia. Glowy also says, what's the best way of watch a fly fishing tournament? Live stream. Oh, well. That isn't funny. But I was expecting something different. So, okay. Gloria says, did you hear they arrested the devil? They got him on possession charges. Good old-fashioned possession charges. The Dodger UK says, our politics is very quiet about this war. I wonder why. I wonder why indeed. It is also probably a rather sensitive subject that nobody quite knows the guidelines for yet. Michael Levin says, true, Russia doesn't have Somali gangs, blame Canada. That's right, Russia is a much more law and order place than Canada is. Wojciech Zlezek says, just do to them what we did to the Sudeten Germans. Christ. I don't know. That sounds like advocating a war crime. Settlers says, the great thing with the next Canadian elections is that every party is hated by the Quebecois, except the BQ, so maybe. I wonder, see. I'm expecting Trudeau to take it regardless, just so I can look Dev in the face and go like, and now what, Dev? Yes, my government is corrupt. Thank you, Dev. Queen Nidus, I've seen the Orthodox Jews in Israel spit on Christians. I don't know if I feel any sympathy for the synagogue of Satan. I mean, I don't know. Someone who is not very religious myself, I feel as if we should draw a line between spitting at people and shooting them in the street. But Dracus Lucis, remember Germany, New Year's Eve 2015. Mobs of Arab men swarming German women, sexual assaults and robbings. These are the people we are letting in. That is correct. They have a very different culture than us. I have no idea what any of that says, and so I'm not going to risk it. So, apologies, Maleficus Shaikan. It looks like orc or something, and I don't know the meaning of it. And considering the context, Mr. Luckless, modern-day democracies seriously make one reconsider if monarchies were all that bad. We're being run by a mob that always chooses the worst option. Ah, monarchism. The better solution to our problems. Until we get a bad king, and then it's just as bad, but quicker. Charlie says, Dev, Canada is cleansing all pre-2008 books. Why? Because it's Canada, and it's an oppressive, totalitarian dictatorship that should be sold down the river, and or turned into an American colony. Hashtag Terra Invicta. We will be restarting that, and Canada will become America again, trust me. Hey, Parpua says, it's easy for a Canadian to say that America should intervene. And it's easy for a Norwegian to say it too. But we don't even need to say it. In fact, I'm saying you shouldn't. Like, stop. Inflation is bad enough already. Don't print another 8 billion money. The Commander 2 Freight says, Dev, this is exactly why we need to debate about the Trump case. Alex Jones wasn't found guilty. It was a civil suit. He was found liable. That's a good point as well. And again, I would argue that even if he is guilty, $1 billion constitutes cruel and unusual punishment by any reasonable estimate. So, Murdoch Hancock, and then Scroll says, the duty of a liberal state is to protect the life, liberty, and property of its citizens. Allowing savages to rape and pillage is illiberal. Well, yes. I think most people would agree. Frontline Texan with his very first super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Says, 2 things make me unreasonably angry. Barbarians and anarchists. It causes me to move straight into the blue square in the upper right. Also, Dev is based more often than most give him credit for. He is. He just occasionally has some very bad takes about corruption.
Fire is the answer.
Dracos Luthos, Jewish best friend pro-Palestine, progs otherwise. There you go. Oliver Nord, do we have time for that Trump judgment about fraud? His holdings are supervised, so no transfer allowed offshore, so they could liquidate all asset related to be the one in New York, which is most of them. Well, very quickly. So, the Trump, let's see here. Trump, 5 million. Okay, so one of the little things that is currently going on, if I can find a source for it offhand. Right, yes, right here. Okay, so this is the whole Trump thing. So Trump has been found guilty of fraud in New York. So the allegation is that he inflated the value of his property to garner loans. So basically, he said, this place is worth so-and-so much, right? And the people, and I'll put this up as collateral. So you're going to borrow me this and this much. Because my house is worth X amount of millions, therefore you're going to lend me X amount of millions. And the allegations is that he lied about the value of Mar-a-Lago, which meant that he defrauded the banks, quote-unquote. Now, that's not really how that works. That's the problem. Because he's paid all of those loans back. So nobody's really been defrauded here. He had the money to pay the loans, which means that he has serviced the loans. Now, in any normal situation, that would mean that nobody's been defrauded because, well, nobody's lost any money. In fact, it would seem that everybody gained money. But this was the piece they were arguing about. So the claim is that Mar-a-Lago was worth between 18 to 27.6 million. That was the claim. Then Donald Trump argued that it was worth hundreds of millions. That is what he was used to put it up as collateral to get the loan. You will excuse me if I stutter a little bit. I'm looking for just a couple of sources here as well, whilst I'm dredging this up from my memory here. So that was the claim. And the judge then said that since Trump claimed it was worth many millions, right? and it was actually worth only 26 million, that proves fraud. That's what the judge said. And the judge even went so far as to chastise Trump's lawyer and threatened to fine and detain him because his claims were absurd. So the judge accepted the 18 to 26 million dollar estimate of Mar-a-Lago offhand, basically, and then said, "Yeah, this is how much it's worth." Trump claimed it was this much. You're crazy, sir. You're in contempt of court, etc. And that was the reason why he judged Trump to be guilty of then defrauding that loan. Now the problem is that's probably absolute bullshit. So this is Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago is fucking huge. It's goddamn enormous. It is sitting on prime beachfront property in an area known as Billionaires Row. There are parking lots in this area that costs millions of dollars. Unironically, I was trying to look for the property price comparisons, which I've seen popping up all over the place. Like how much the prices of the houses cost. And there are like villas in this area. Nice villas. Don't get me wrong. Really nice villas.
Heresy's the question.
But those villas cost like 25 million. So they claim that a villa is as valuable as Mar-a-Lago is, which is absolute, complete, and utter nonsense.
Heresy's the question. Fire is the answer.
Let's see, I can't find the damn thing now. Maybe this one. God damn it. I can't find it now, no matter how much I search. But in essence, the surrounding properties around Mar-a-Lago, they were valued more than Mar-a-Lago. So it makes no sense, right? You've got here. This all works as a reference, right? So the houses over here, over to the left of Mar-a-Lago, these were priced at 20 to 30 to 40 million dollars, right? Whereas this, a massively much larger property, a hugely much larger property, is valued at 18 million. No, obviously not. Obviously not. It's complete and utter bullshit, and Trump is literally being taken for a ride here. There is no question about it whatsoever. This is a absurd judgment. Straight up. There's no legitimacy in it whatsoever, in my opinion. They're like... The judge accuses Trump's lawyers of living in a fantasy world. I think the judge is living in the fantasy world. It's just absurd. I wish I could find that damn property price thing. Because it was really stark. Like, it was ridiculously stark. Where you had the properties next being worth as much as Mar-a-Lago was supposedly valued at. Oh, maybe this one. Hold on. See.
Heresy's the question. Fire is the answer.
I think this is the area right here. Now this is awful resolution, so you probably can't see shit. But Mar-a-Lago is up there, and we have like Jeff Green's house down here. That's worth $42 million. There's another house here at $49 million. Yeah, so all of these houses are worth more than Mar-a-Lago, according to this judge. Right. Yeah, no, it's absolutely absurd. It's absolutely insane. The Trump is being taken for a ride through the legal system. It is blatant as day. It is absolutely blatant. And I do hope it gets overturned, because it seems absurd, and yet who the hell knows? Trump is currently sitting with the entire legal system on his ass, and this is an excellent opportunity for them to completely annihilate him, straight up. Because if they take away his business licenses, his ability to do business in New York, one of the largest centers of his business empire, you can absolutely cripple him. And see, this is essentially a change in tactic for the Democratic Party. And I will say this is for the Democratic Party. In that they're going, okay, we can't humiliate him, we can't shame him, we can't cancel him through any of the usual means, so how are we going to deal with him? Well, we're going to hit him in the wallet. We are going to hit him in the pocketbook. We are going to take away his ability to do business. Simple as. That's how I view it. So, yeah, that's real quick on that. I'm sorry I couldn't find the better one, but again, even this one, again, like, there's tens of millions of dollars that these houses are worth, and these houses are blatantly, even from this shitty picture, blatantly way smaller than this fucking castle here. So, yeah, absolute, undisguised bullshit. That was a divergence. Why You Hatin' says, China housing bubble has popped and they have no combat experience. They want to play around the Middle East for a couple of decades dodging IEDs. Let them. Maybe. Settlers, the thing with the Armenian war is that since it was kinda Russia, I think, supported Armenia, so with the Ukraine war, so Azerbaijan is just kinda taking advantage. Yeah, probably. They see an opportunity and they took it. C.T. Thomas, the Beat Peasant, says Sabaton is a good band. I can almost forgive them for being Swedish. Art Warmer, 2023. Yeah, I stand by it. I can almost forgive them for being Swedish. Not quite, mind you. Not completely. But I'm close. I am near. I am in the ballpark of being able to forgive them for being Swedish. Janine Cat says, the Sandy Hook situation is fun to look into. Real Kino theories there. Every family that lost children immediately ran as Democrats. That isn't funny, but it is. Sephurius, last thing I'll say, as an American, I'm more okay with giving money to Israel to defend themselves over Ukraine, but Israel has proved, I guess, they can fight their own wars without too much help. They do. Master of the Obvious saying, hey Arch, I've got a war game almost ready to prototype, and then it's scrolled. Any ideas on how to market it when the time comes? YouTubers. I'm not just saying that because I'm a YouTuber. I'm saying that because they are probably going to be the easiest people to persuade. If you go to a YouTuber and you go like, hey, I've got a war game here. I want to like give you a sponsorship or something. Please have a look at it. A lot of people are probably going to say yes, especially in the like wargaming communities, the people who do this for stuff. Like just YouTube like wargaming, and you'll find probably tons of channels, tons of small channels too, and just hit loads of them. A lot of them probably won't even ask for any money. They'll just be like, yeah, sure, I'd love to. And once you've saturated the YouTubers, then you can move on to the like media outlets, like the wargaming outlets, the hobby outlets, etc. They're going to be more difficult to convince because they're going to consider themselves to be larger. You know, they're a website. They're above filthy little newbies like yourself. But if you get a little bit of buzz going on YouTube, you're probably going to find it a lot easier. At least that's my opinion on it. Mark James says, nah, these YouTubers like Johnny Somali are incapable of learning. Leaving their corpses as lessons to others is far more effective. See, I kind of agree. I know, I kind of agree. Like, the whole real-life IRL prank shit is not only cringe as fuck, but it's dangerous as fuck as well. Like, don't go bothering people. Like, as a Norwegian, right? for a Norwegian, bothering someone else is like the worst thing you can do. You just don't do it. You do not act like an asshole around other people. It's simply not something you do. You do not cause other people concern or annoyance. It is a cardinal faux pas. So to see these people do this kind of internet stuff for clicks, I hate it. I absolutely despise it on every level of my being. Dreyfus says, well, happy Thanksgiving, Arch, you Norwegian sob. We don't have to say Thanksgiving because we eradicate our natives. Until they moved back in again 100 years later, I guess. Dean Domin25 says, the Alex Jones thing is more complicated than Dev is saying. Jones was sued in Connecticut instead of federal justice jurisdiction because the courts did a Mr. Fantastic-esque reach for authority. Ask Rikita. Oh, I'm sure it's spicy. The Real Holstein says, Pally was short for Palestinian, LMAO, but YouTube wouldn't let me write it out of context in the context of making the meat pork. Oh, yeah. Fjolne, all true nations are built on ethnos. The USA is a propositional nation, thus explicitly not built on ethnos. Therefore, the US is not a true nation. That's an idea as well. Sky for the Strange says, there is work around for arresting that F. Trudeau guy and make it a hate crime. I would like to see Trudeau arrested for hate crimes. I really would. Gabriel Natia says, when a bank approves a loan, they don't evaluate the collateral on their own ahead of time. They do. Obviously they do. Like, that's the other part of this whole thing as well. The victims here are the banks. The victims. Okay, listen. The banks will look into your credit score for everything they do. You don't get to borrow a penny from a bank without them thinking that you're good for it. Like, Trump didn't trick the banks. He paid back their loans, for God's sake. The banks knew what the man was worth. They knew what his property was worth. They would have looked into it. They're not going to open their wallets and be like, oh, yes, Mr. Trump, here's $1 million. Probably a lot more than $1 million, mind you. For no goddamn reasons. The banks did their due diligence. They estimated that it was worth to put their money into, and they were right, because they got their money back. I mean, if Trump is defrauding... Oh, I should actually probably turn off the little Dev face, because he's still there. Little Dev, go away. If Trump is guilty of defrauding the banks for repaying his loans, I wonder if America is guilty of anything as well, because I don't think they've been repaying a lot of their loans. Sunyan says, there is a 2-acre plot that is worth $150 million nearby Mar-a-Lago. His property is 22 acres and has a mansion. It is also an entertainment venue, club, etc. It also has a spa, I believe, and a tennis court, etc., 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 etc. Yeah, it's insane. The new IKB 4472 says, how much Trump's house is worth needs to include the fact that Trump has lived there. People will pay silly money for things celebrities have touched. That is true as well. So Thaddeus says, you're accusing anyone of fraud is the New York City, I'm presuming. Accusing anyone of fraud is the pot calling the kettle black. Yep, that as well. Genovich, 1967, Israel 6-day war and being finished in time for Sabbath. You might think their neighbors learned their lesson during that base conflict. They probably did, but during the Yom Kippur War, they managed to regain a lot of their confidence, unfortunately for Israel. And that was America specifically cock-blocking Israel from repeating the 6-day war as well. Wojciech Zlezak says, Arch, it's the Sudeten land, and we just moved the Germans to Germany. Some died, but it was after World War II. I just moved them, did you? Well, thank you for the clarification. Italian Hayabusa, I feel any judge who so blatantly disregards the law should face capital punishment, same for politicians. Hey, you're preaching to the fucking choir, mate. Like, I am of the opinion that judges should be held to a very high ethical and legal standard. And if they violate it, nay, if they even demonstrate the appearance of having violated it, then the legal system should come down upon them like a merciless ton of bricks. Like, I am of the opinion that if a judge makes... Like, you get, 3 strikes. The first strike, okay, Shit happens. You fucked up. This is a volatile job. Sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes you get the evidence wrong. Okay. Second time, all right, there you go. You're on thin ice now, sir. And if you fuck up thrice with irresponsible judgments, which we'll have to make a
Heresy's the
standard for, of
question. Fire is
course,
the answer.
then you go to jail. Straight up. Then you go to jail, and for a very long time. For a very long time. We are talking like 20, 30, 40 years. No parole. Absolutely. Like, there needs to be fucking fear in the judges. I know, we're going hard today, but there needs to be actual fear of making a wrong judgment, because currently there isn't any. There's no responsibility whatsoever. That judge can make up whatever fucking shit he damn well wants, and unless in America, like, Congress decides to screw with them, and that never happens, incidentally, I think it's Congress anyways, they're safe. There's nothing that can be done to them. And in the worst case scenario, they might be defrocked. Like, wow. No. If you fuck up, and bearing in mind the power these people have as well, to ruin lives, to put people in jail for decades, or even to kill people in certain states. Oh yeah. You should be afraid of making a wrong judgment. If there is any doubt in your mind, it is not guilty. Simple as. Right, now that we've gone full hard on that. Oliver Noah says, I'm sorry, but you mostly convinced me that there are many overpriced property in Florida. Besides the constant traffic from reporter sieges and buzzing from news helicopters, should love a lower local value. I do agree as well, yes.
I have lost.
Like, it's an incredibly desirable piece of real estate, and that's why the prices are so fucking ridiculous. Gareth Lantier. Louis Rossman had a bunch of videos about renting out office space in New York. Every single property he looked at was listed as having a significantly bigger surface area than reality. Is that fraud? Why, yes, I think it should be. Yes, I think it should. And lastly, Black 1917 says, Hail Archchrist, our Lord and Saviour. Hail Archchrist indeed. Hail me. I am your Lord and Saviour. I am the only one who can save you from the judges. I'm going to need a lot more power than a random YouTuber to do so, but I'm working on it. Don't you worry. All right. We are all the way through then. Thank you all very much for all the super generous super chats today. For the massive turnout as well. This was clearly a hot button topic, and I think we covered it reasonably well. I'm even going to let the video stay up on fucking YouTube. Imagine that. I think we actually behaved ourselves very well, and chat too. I only had to remove like 6 or 7 messages. Chat was very well behaved. I am very proud of you, chat. Good boys. Don't prove me wrong in the last 2 minutes. Very good boys, chat. You are a fine fella. Fellas. There you go, plural. Unless you're a single entity, in which case, congratulations. Right. Until next time then, which will be, we'll do Baldur's Gate tomorrow, and then we're starting in on Dead Space next week. So that'll be fun, I hope. I am going to go play some Warno, I think, with Kib. I think the plan was to do that. And as per previous arrangements with Devaruni, despite his betrayal, we shall raid Devaruni today as well. So, till next time, have a very good day.